Oi.
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 Oi again.
What's happening, bro?
How's it going? Not too much, man. How you doing?
It's going.
Yeah.
Kind of excited to talk to Thomas again. It's been a while.
Yeah,
Thomas is always a good guest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I was watching several of his videos this
He was
morning.
binging this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the cute little cartoons he uses. When he's like got his legs crossed and he's patting his arm, his little fingers.
And the cartoons are blinking, and I love that too. That attention to detail. But yeah, I really love the amount of research he does. He puts into this. I mean, this is RAW material easily. But Arn, as much as we love Arn, and he's brilliant, Arn is not as charismatic.
No, he just kind of spits straight facts, man.
Oh yeah, Arn is like straight shooter, right?
Yeah, and it can get kind of boring.
Yeah, no entertainment.
He kind of scares you when he delivers it because it's like, shit, this guy's gonna punch me. But Thomas seems more approachable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's not so terrifying.
Okay, well, I was supposed to have a guest co-host, but he seems to be a no-show at this point, so that's not going to work out. So, you want to do the skip?
Yeah, you want to try it real quick?
Let's do that.
Let's give it a go.
Recording. 3, 2. Oh, come on, man. You still angry at me?
You ruined the wedding, dude.
I was just trying to uphold tradition, that's all.
I never should have invited you. Not all tradition should be upheld.
But releasing birds as a wedding is rather romantic. I thought they'd really, appreciate the gesture.
Dude, you released fucking ostriches. Ostriches! They trampled the groom.
Well, in my defense, it was more exotic than doves.
They pecked the bridemaid and her bridesmaids.
Lovingly pecked the bride.
One of them sat on the mother-in-law.
Well, that's just their way of showing affection.
The pastor was humped by that big male.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed that part.
Actually, me too. That was pretty funny.
See? Crushed it, yeah.
He's not going to walk right for a week.
That's perfect.
God, I'm glad I didn't have that script.
All right, well,
Locker room talk, fun times.
All right. Okay, let's do this.
You sure you're ready for it? Need to laugh a little more?
It's just the image of releasing ostriches at a wedding is just... So instead of a handful of doves, you get like 5, 6 ostriches trampling down the aisle. That'd just be hilarious as hell.
The skits give me a look into your brain that just is a little worrisome sometimes.
I can picture that character being like Zach Galifianakis too. I'm like, what? Zach Galifianakis?
Yeah. From Scrubs.
What's it?
Scrubs.
The Hangover.
The Hangover.
The beard.
And he's got that.
Totally see him.
He's got that Between Two Ferns interview show too.
Yeah. He's so funny.
Okay, let's do this. Oh God, the cat's showing up. Oh, yeah, exactly.
I just thought I'd, preempt it.
Yeah. Recording. 3, 2.
Hello, this is Perry Bulwer, and I took a left at the Valley.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. We don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from Naked Hiking, BC, and Cover Your Ass Up, Florida, this is Left in the Valley 2.0. My name is Kevin, and a TV chef said that where there's fat, there's flavor. I took it as a compliment. Joining me as usual is the team confused as to if bread is also the flesh of Jesus, where does he go in a sandwich? She'll tell you the colder the X-ray table, the more your body is required on it. Sabrina.
Hey, how you doing?
And when the police knocked on his door, he asked him to identify themselves by saying, Roxanne! Brent Lee! Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you had a great week.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it was okay.
Fantastic. So today we'll be talking to Thomas Westbrook, a friend from the Holy Kool-Aid YouTube channel. But first, let's get into our usual chit-chat. And by the way, that reference to naked hiking there in BC is actually because...
it was Naked Bike Day last week, wasn't it?
Well, today and tomorrow is the solstice, right?
Yes.
And it's actually Naked Hiking Day in BC as well.
Oh.
So if you're going out there hiking in BC and you happen to stumble across another hiker who might be skimpy on the clothing, yeah, don't necessarily be alarmed.
They have a naked bike ride every year.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was like last week or something like that.
That all sounds very painful. Like, do you have bushes? You got bushes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be.
Beware the
hiking
poison
it.
ivy as well. Okay. We spoke a couple of weeks ago of our friend Damien Lee Thorr, and he's the one of the guys for the heavy metal group Predator. Damien was talking to us about how he was refused a job in a school there. He's also he's an artist. He's a very talented artist, actually.
Yes, very much.
And I would
so.
encourage our listeners to go encourage his work. He actually paints, and he also builds guitars. So if you want to make a custom guitar, like electric guitar and everything like that, like he will make one for you. So,
Holy shit!
Yeah,
I
so
might have to hit him up for that specifically.
if you go to redbubble.com and you find his shop is under Damienator shop. So
Spell that.
Oh, cool.
Damien, Damienator, like Damienator,
Right.
kind of like the Terminator shop, and you'll see all. He has a tendency to paint a lot of whales and dolphins
They're
and
amazing.
sharks, and they're actually really, really cool. The man is really, really talented. So if you can help him, give him a few bucks because some of the proceeds of the sale actually goes back to him. Obviously, he would really appreciate that. So perfect. Moving on. Did you guys hear that the U.S. Supreme Court has sided with the Catholic Church and the Catholic Social Services in a case in Pennsylvania? The agency violated the Pennsylvania law by discriminating against the LGBTQ couple in some kind of adoption procedure. Pennsylvania was to end the contract with the CCS, and the CCS went to court, basically said it was a violation of their First Amendment rights, and the court unanimously agreed.
Oh,
Unanimously agreed.
Puke.
Any thoughts on that?
Puke.
That's
My thought.
It's kind of weird the way that they did it. Because it was like they wanted they call it like putting a fence around it, so it's not like it sets a precedent of any kind.
That's what I was worried about.
But you get enough of these where they're saying that it doesn't set a precedent of any kind, and it kind of does.
It does.
Absolutely.
If they just keep putting a wall around each one of these cases and saying, "Oh, but this isn't a precedent," and you get enough of these, then it does.
Didn't they also do the same thing
frustrating.
when they were doing that gay wedding cake?
I was just going to say that.
Didn't they
I
also
think
say, set a wall around it? But it's already cited in other cases now.
Really?
Yeah, it's almost the exact same thing.
Yeah,
honestly.
so even if they say it doesn't set a precedent, it
It
kind of
absolutely
does.
did.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious as to why unanimously the court went with this.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. But
they did something else to protect. They did, and I can't remember what it was that they did that was for the LGBTQ folks, but they unanimously went with that too. And I think it was like to add protections or something like that. It was trying to meet in the middle kind of thing. And now I was reading it a couple days ago, and of course now I can't remember what it was. But they saw it as a concession, like it was meeting in the middle kind of a thing. That's the way they viewed it.
It seems the Republican.
I'd have to get the details.
The Republican gamble of stuffing the court with as many conservative judges as possible is starting to pay off already.
Yes.
This is why elections are important, people.
Yep.
Right. Exactly. And there actually was there was a case just recently that was like the cake case, except that it was a birthday cake for a trans person. And the court actually went against the person making the cake and say, no, you you violated, their rights for,
Good.
Not making the cake. So there, I guess there are some good cases, but they seem to be a lot fewer than the ones that go in favor of the religious crazy people.
Yes, indeed. In Canadian news, QAnon, the followers are now harassing Canadians. This is an amazing story. A woman who claims is the secret ruler of Canada. Yes, and she has thousands of followers. Her name is, it's not a real name, but she's called Romana Didulo. She's a woman in BC, and she's in her 50s, and she claims to have been put in control of the Great White North and anointed by prominent Q followers.
As the Queen of Canada.
She's the Queen of the North.
She thinks she's the Queen of the North, exactly.
Yeah.
She's been watching too much Game of Thrones thing.
Yeah, she thinks she's the Queen of Canada.
And her followers have been filing hundreds of cease and desist notices to businesses, government, and police to stop fighting the pandemic and give anti-vax literature.
Yep.
Wow.
It gets better.
Yeah, exactly. The Didulo basically says that the people not following the cease and desist orders will be executed. That's what she's calling for. Yeah, she's also...
So she's inciting violence. That's all I hear there.
She's inciting violence. She also claims that there's been secret military tribunals that have executed the Queen of England by now.
Yeah, which is weird.
Last time I checked, she's old, but she's alive.
Yeah.
What is their obsession with these military tribunals?
Oh, well, it's a Q thing, right?
Yeah, it's got to be because
this is Q coming across the border into Canada now. This is what
some woman here capitalizing on the craziness in Canada.
This goes back to what we've all been saying on the show. You know how I said fake news is an American phenomenon that spreads into other countries. This is an example of that. Now it's Q, and it's spreading
to the internet too, right?
Exactly, it's spreading across the border into other countries, and now we have our crazy Q Canadian here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, on behalf of America, I'd like to apologize.
I mean, we did give you Justin Bieber, so is this just revenge?
I think it's revenge, yeah. She's now founded a political party, which is called Canada First. Right, so it's one of those French parties, but nonetheless, she's putting her money where her mouth is. And the funny thing is, Romana Didulo is an anagram for I am our Donald. So this is a look into the mindset, but I can't help but reiterate how dangerous. I mean, it is funny and it looks ridiculous from this point of view, and it is. But how dangerous this is, because her followers are now calling for people to be executed, and it doesn't take much for one lone gun nut
to go into a pizza parlor.
Yes, right, and start shooting people because he saw something on Q.
Because these aren't the type of people that, don't have guns.
Exactly. Yes. And their guns are very prevalent in Canada, too. They're just usually long guns.
There's a big gun culture in Canada. It is fairly well regulated as well, but that doesn't mean the guns are not here either. Right?
No, exactly.
Right.
And conservative Canadians are also probably, I'm going on a limb here to say, more likely to own a gun, specifically thinking of like Alberta. And how,
which is our Texas.
It's our Texas, right? So it's kind of country, and there's going to be, and hunters too. I mean, rural areas of all the provinces, people have long guns.
We're definitely going to have to keep an eye on this, and this is cultish behavior right there. It's cultish behavior into politics.
Yeah,
and
but if she's inciting hate, she can be arrested. So why hasn't she?
I don't know yet.
That's a good point. Because you have laws like that. You could probably get away with that here.
Yeah,
in the U.S. saying like, "Hey, let's just kill everybody that doesn't agree or whatever." Be like free speech, whatever.
I'm hoping it's one of those. Actually, I'm not hoping, but what I think is happening here is people are not taking her seriously yet. They just think, she's just a nutcase on the French. But I hope the government kind of wakes up to it and takes it a bit more seriously before something gets hurt.
Happens. Because if they do it after, it's like closing the barn door after the horse ran away.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
Let's not do that, okay?
Okay.
Let's not have anyone die.
Sticking in Canada, Alberta, which is our version of Texas.
Yep.
There's a right-wing journal that is run by Jason Kenney. Now, not by Jason Kenney.
I was going to say,
Jason Kenney is the
premier.
premier, but he had an advisor called Chris Champion, and he's running the journal. The journal is actually called the Dorchester Review. And he describes himself as a semi-academic. I'm not sure what that means.
Semi-academic, okay. So he
That's
can
how
sort
I
of
describe
read.
myself.
Yeah. I'm semi-athletic, and I'm
very semi-athletic, let me tell you.
I'm a semi-astronaut too.
I'm in great shape. It's round.
He's making. Last week we did a very powerful show on the residential school, and this guy's fighting back against that essentially.
Fuck off. He's
making inflammatory statements regarding the residential schools via Twitter, obviously.
Cis white male, I'm sure.
Well, of course he is. He's making inflammatory responses to people discussing the residential schools. He basically tweets that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is essentially just cash for tail spinning, and he denies the facts of the residential school issues. And he's even calling names. He's calling names at university professors that are basically historians, that say no, this actually happened. He called teaching the First Nation perspective a fad.
Oh my fucking god!
And this is a former staffer to the current premier. He was working for him from 2007 to 2015. He also authored the Alberta New Social Studies curriculum.
Oh, great.
What?
Yes, and of course, when this curriculum came out, the people basically rose up and said, "No, this is just not right," because there was a lot of things in there. There was a huge portrayal of how colonialism happened in Canada, and it was dismissive of First Nations. It was dismissive of LGBTQ or anything like that. This guy's a problem.
A little one.
Yeah, he's a problem, and this is what we always go back to. This is why politics is important, people, because we always have a tendency to look up at the figurehead. In this case, Jason Kenney, but it's not him. It's the people behind him, the people he chooses. They're the one pulling the strings and creating the problems. It's a bit like going to. It's a bit like blaming Ronald McDonald for your Big Mac not tasting good. It's not Ronald McDonald that's running the show.
Yeah,
maybe it's a bad analogy here, but
well, no, I'm just grossed out. I'm so disgusted by that.
Yeah,
oh my god!
But it reminds me. I'm sorry. It reminds me so much of the critical race theory and like everybody going crazy about that because it's we're just. It's not. They act like it alters history. What it does is it adds a different perspective, a new perspective. It just adds to history.
Exactly.
It's more stories, more like things that we can like evaluate and from different perspectives. And they hate that. They hate that like we have to look at other people's perspective, like the First Nations. Indigenous folks like that they don't want to have to think about their perspective.
No,
I mean
your perspective doesn't matter. It needs to stay that way, and that's how they feel, And it's like, but this is good history. We need all the perspectives we could possibly get.
I totally.
I mean, I think you have a very valid point here. I mean, it's they always say history is written by the victor, but I've always wondered. How do the conquered feel? What is their version of the events? Because we especially as atheists, we run into this kind of stuff. We're going to run into this stuff today with Thomas Westbrook as well. Historicity in the Bible, for example. How the Israelite came in and conquered Canaan and blah 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 blah. And we know it's not real. We know it didn't happen that way. But it's the only perspective that we sort of have.
Yeah.
So if you have the other perspective, it kind of helps you build a better image, because the truth always lies somewhere down the middle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
it almost kind of reminds me. I was actually just recently. This is sort of a sidetrack, but not really. Just as far as what you're saying, like there's the 6-Day War. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
With Israel. And I was always taught as a kid and stuff, and growing up, that there were the reason that the 6-Day War ended was because of giant angels on either side.
What?
Of tanks. Yeah, I was literally told that and shown videos.
Giant angels on either side of tanks?
Yeah, these giant angels were marching on either side of the tanks, and then everybody just ran away like a fucking movie.
Why would you need a tank if you get the giant angels going that way?
Well, apparently they showed up later.
And how did they have tanks then?
No, the 6-Day War was recent, babe. It was like in the 1960s or 70s?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. It was to establish Israel, wasn't it? I'd have to look at it again.
But let me Google that here in a second. Keep going, Brent.
Yeah,
but
that's crazy.
yeah, and so that was clearly written by the victors, right?
Yeah.
Like they were like, yeah, because we had God on it. No, you were right, 67. We had God on our side, and they had so God sent angels to protect this holy land that is ours, and it's I was looking up and trying to find like information on it, like, okay, who else was there? Because I know this story was bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
well, first of all, you think in 1967 there was like really tall angels sitting by tanks. Somebody would have caught a picture of it.
Yeah, that's my first thought.
Some kind of. Yeah, we had pictures then, y'all.
You'd have that on camera. You'd have that filmed,
Yeah.
You'd have irrefutable proof. You'd have like the feathers of the angels somewhere in a museum or something.
I mean, yeah, it happened like a couple of months ago. Like, we should be able to.
Yeah. I think it'd be very, very, very clear.
But it's just a start. Like, it's just it's because that was happening kind of in real time, more modern, and yet you hear these types of reasoning, like that type of reasoning for why they won the war.
Yeah,
which wasn't accurate. That was not it. They had help from other people.
No.
It always makes me laugh because it's a bit like those people that win at sports. They're like, and I'd like to thank God for our victory today against the Broncos.
How about the skill that you have to do the game?
For one, I would like to see a guy basically said, I'd really like to thank God for our loss today, bastard. We were sure to win. We didn't pray enough. Well, you're supposed to thank God to win. Well, fuck him. We lost today. We prayed all freaking weekend to him, and we still lost.
Yeah. And they never say "fuck God" when that shit happens. They always thank him when the good things do. It's amazing. Yeah.
No, but when they lose, it was God's will.
Yeah, exactly. God's really invested in football, American football, for some reason.
And politics.
I don't know why.
And politics.
I always thought God would be more of a rugby guy.
Well, yeah. It's a much more expensive
Actually, it's not true.
Soccer.
He watches ballet.
Maybe.
And synchronized swimming.
You're assuming that God's a he.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Maybe God is gender neutral and goes by they, them.
Well, maybe.
That could be too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was funny too because like Noah Illusions just did a diatribe. I think it was like a couple weeks ago, but he was like saying, if it was so true and so obviously true, we'd have to make laws keeping people from praying during sports events.
Yes.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Because it'll affect the outcome of the game.
Yes. Think how different the world would actually be if there was actual confirmation of a divine being.
If we get 1,001 prayers, your team will win.
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, and you gotta you'd have to have everybody sign an agreement to I promise I won't pray in my head because you can do that.
You'd have a couple of pastors and priests try to lobby God. And no, come on, you gotta vote for us this time.
I'll donate you 50,000 angels.
No, all the sports would be each team would have to be a different religion than the other because they gotta pray to their God.
That's funny because that reminds me. There's a video game out there. It came out a few years ago. I think it was called Battle of the Gods, something like that. It's like a Street Fighter type game.
Oh yeah, I looked that up. Yeah, you were telling me about that. Look it up, dude. That shit is hilarious.
That shit is hilarious because you get Moses and Jesus. You even have one character Santa Claus.
I would love to be Santa Claus.
And you have
in there
Hindu gods and stuff like that. It's funny as hell. Mm-hmm. It's I love Jesus. I love the character of Jesus because he appears on the cross and he's nailed to the cross and he just breaks the cross and he still has the pieces of wood attached to his forearms.
Of course he does because he's the hero of the game.
No, he's not. He's just one character in the game.
I know that, but anyway.
Three. She's right. He should be able to split into three.
Yeah. Yeah, right? The Holy
One's
Trinity.
An old guy with a white beard. One's just a ghosty thing that just is like a mist.
Let's see Jesus making a "Oh, you can" or something like that.
I'd want to be Buddha. Just kind of go around and preach peace.
Just hits people with his belly. He's like, boom.
No, I think I'd go for something like Odin. Odin's pretty badass.
Yeah. Okay. Would be the way.
Moving on. Going back to the U.S., Marjorie Taylor Greene. This dingbat.
Here we go.
She had a press conference recently where she said
Oh, God.
She visited she said, I have made a mistake. This afternoon, I visited the Holocaust Museum, and she says there's nothing comparable to it. This is the woman that's basically saying that wearing a mask is like the Holocaust. And my first question is, you just went to the Holocaust Museum and you just came out and realized your mistake? What the hell did you think the Holocaust was?
Right?
Right. Well, she was comparing it to the gold stars, right? Like having to show that you've been vaccinated to gold stars, which certain fucking assholes in Georgia started to produce. And gold
I
stars
saw that. Fuck that.
had fucking, not vaccinated on it.
I mean, how amazing do you have to be in your life to go through all your entire life as an adult in North America and be this ignorant of history? This is something you should just be absorbing by osmosis.
Yeah.
I never went to the Holocaust Museum. I've never done deep research into what happened in World War II, but I'm very aware of what happened. How bloody ignorant, willfully ignorant you have to be to actually go as an adult, as a representative of the people. She's in government. This woman is in government. And go to the Holocaust Museum, come out and say, oh shit, I was so wrong. And say, holy crap, where have you been?
Out the Holocaust was bad.
Yeah, it turns out,
Crazy.
Unreal.
Absolutely unreal. And this is the woman that, that's been elected. Wow, I mean, this story kind of brings me hope because, she's demonstrated right now that she is teachable. You can show her something. So that kind of gives me hope. But it's
laser Jew?
Yes, the space laser. The Jewish space laser. That's the woman.
So maybe this is just a PR stunt so that people stop remembering her for being that crazy nut job?
Well, I don't know. But I mean, obviously she went to the museum and saw the records and saw the pictures and saw...
Yeah, I agreed that maybe that happened, but maybe it was all orchestrated.
Oh, I don't know. But it's like...
I'm sure you're right, Sabrina. I'm sure that that was like her people basically going, you gotta fucking do something about this because she doubled down like several times.
So,
and I think her aides or something were like, this is fucking stupid. You're looking like an idiot.
So you're thinking maybe the Republican Party basically pulled her aside and said,
you need to do this.
You need to take a good look at this because we're looking really, really bad.
Or even just make it look like you believe this even if you don't.
Yeah,
well, because Holocaust denial is a major part of white supremacy, alt-right,
and Q and all that shit.
Yeah,
and so that's what if you're just comparing it to everything, that's so like barely similar at all, and just making it like it's no big deal, you're gonna fall into that. People thinking that you're part of that category, and they really strive to when they're in politics to look like they're not part of that group. You know what I mean?
And it's also on the rise too. The Holocaust denialism and everything that happened in World War II is actually on the rise. Unfortunately, it's going to happen more and more because the further away it moves into the past of history, the less people feel.
The less people talk about the actual stories.
Because the survivors and all that eventually all going to pass away, and then they're just going to be like faceless names in the past. And today you can still talk to some of these survivors, and they give you like first-hand account of what the hell went. And
I've heard a second-hand account of a friend of mine's grandma who literally jumped off a train that was on its way to Auschwitz and ran into the Swiss Alps, and that's how she survived, and her sister didn't.
Jesus.
Oh, god damn. Yeah, that was the really, really bad one.
She was 12.
She was 12.
Something like that. Yeah, she was young. Yeah.
Wow.
Jesus. Yeah, I've been through that Holocaust museum. It is.
Where is it? I'd love to go.
I don't know. We have one here.
Okay.
And
there's more than one, I guess. Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. There's quite a few.
Yeah,
but it was intense.
There was also a trend that people were starting to get shamed for. Young kids taking selfies at some of these concentration camps. They would take selfies, with the peace sign and all that stuff. And then there was an I don't have the article with me, but I loved it. There was an artist that basically took those selfies and put in the background the real scenes.
Good.
Ugh.
and basically publish those pictures. You know, you get that kid, you know, like, hey man, peace, I'm at the Auschwitz camp. Yeah, cool. And in the background is actually the real scene happening. And I thought that was a brilliant move by that artist. I don't know who it is. I don't have it off the top of my head.
To respect. Like,
Yes,
go there
yes.
and respect. Do not
This
sit
shit
there
ain't funny, man.
It's
No, it ain't
not.
funny. It ain't funny at all.
Yeah.
It's not cool that you got to go to Auschwitz. I would not. I mean, I may take a photo, but it would not be me throwing a peace sign.
It'd be the same thing as us, you know, like in this country, we talked about the residential school. Imagine me going to the Mission Residential School where we know some kids' eyes and say, hey man, peace, cool. You know, I'm here.
Oh, God, no.
It's like, no.
Go lay flowers and take a photo of
have
that.
some respect for these people and their suffering.
Exactly. Yeah, lay some flowers, do something to show respect, you know, because that's real.
So hopefully Taylor Greene there, has learned something, and she might not be...
I hope that it's real, but I do have my doubts.
I know.
Yeah, well, I try to be optimistic.
Yes, you do.
All right. My dear Brent, you have another brilliant moment for us.
I do. There was a conference here, and this is, you know, I always say it's right down the street.
It's always down the street.
Was this one literally
this
down the
is
street?
Literally right down the street.
Could you walk there?
Well, it would take probably all day, but I could get there. It's like a half an hour drive.
Okay, that's kind of down the street.
Right? Okay. So in Tampa Bay, there was this conference called the Faith and Freedom Coalition Conference.
As soon as you see faith and freedom together, you know it's going to be a bad shit.
Oh, yeah. And it's like this ultra-Christian conservative conference that's all about Christianity and politics and stuff like that. Well, guess who showed up?
Uh-oh.
Ex-Vice President Mike Pence.
What?
Right? Yeah, he showed up, man. He was, you know, I mean, he is the embodiment of everything that is Christianity being just rammed into, government. I would say, you know, I mean, he was that was why they voted for him. That's why they voted for Trump.
Yeah.
You know, half the people I would talk to said they didn't vote for Trump. They voted for Pence.
Wow,
Which
really?
is scary.
I know, right? That's just a creepy thing, you know, that because that's what they care about. They care like, oh, that guy's a born-again Christian that is not scared to talk about it, you know? And
at the time, Pence was, before he was vice president, he was the governor of Illinois, right? If I'm correct, yeah. And people were saying, when they were talking about impeaching Trump the first time, they were saying if they managed to get him out of there, he'd be replaced by Pence. Which I was thinking, I don't think that's better.
No,
which is terrifying. No, that's terrifying to me. You know, I mean, he botched. I mean, they had a major HIV outbreak because of him, because he got rid of all the needle exchanges. Because he thought that encouraged people to do heroin. If you have a needle exchange. And it's like, no, we just recognize that they're going to fucking do it whether we tell them that they're not supposed to be or not, you know?
Yep.
Like, they're going to fucking do it either way, and we need something to keep that from spreading fucking disease. And so we shut them all down, and then there was a major HIV outbreak, and it was all his fault.
Oh, wow.
But the funny thing, and this is kind of funny, is that he tried to speak at this, and you got to keep in mind that Florida has sort of become the epicenter for Trump and all the Trumpies. Okay, and so he comes down here and he tries to speak, and he completely gets like shouted down by the crowd. They like started chanting.
Well, yeah, they
traitor.
tried to hang him on January 6th.
Oh, right.
I know.
I forgot.
They built the gallows for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did the Trumpies decide that he was the traitor?
Because Trump was basically saying that as vice president, he had the deciding vote to whether or not certify the election.
Oh, right, yes.
And they said he should have basically said, Trump actually did his work. He actually did what he was supposed to do, and he said, no, I can't do this. But Trump wanted him to basically say, override this.
Yeah, which he had no real ability to do. It's performative.
Yeah.
You just sign in you certify the votes and all that shit, but it's purely performative. Like, if you have to do it no matter what, pretty much. And if you don't, then it looks like a fucking takeover, a fascist takeover of some sort. You know what I mean? Like, which it wouldn't look like it. That's what it would be.
It's exactly what it would be.
So, and he knew that. He was like, I can't just not certify the votes. They're they've already been certified up to this point. I'm just the last signature on the page.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. It's already done.
Yeah.
And the fact that he didn't do what he was literally incapable of doing, they all hate him.
Yeah.
You know?
Nothing hits you like Christian love, huh?
Yeah.
I know, right? It's insane. And they sat there and literally fucking booed
Cheered him
him.
out.
You know, I don't think he left the stage, but he struggled to get through his little speech there. One thing I am gonna draw attention to. Now, this is interesting. He said, and this is usually his like kill shot line. Like everybody just goes crazy when he says this. He said, "I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order." You know, and it was funny because like he pointed out in the this is from the Friendly Atheist blog. Which always makes me excited when they're talking about Tampa, Florida, even though they're the worst stories usually. But you know, he was like, you know, could you imagine if like Ilhan Omar like said something like that? Like, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Democrat, and I'm an American or whatever, you know, in that order.
Yeah.
Lose their shit.
It absolutely
They
would.
would lose their shit, and maybe she should just to push with them.
Yeah.
Right? I know. I'd be fine with that. I'm just like, what? Yeah,
I'd
so does
cheer.
everybody. Everybody's their religion first. I get it. Yeah. It's the most personal thing. Cool. Whatever. But, like,
Wow.
because it's Christianity, that gets, you know, it's okay in America. But if it's anything else, it's not okay.
No, and Mike Pence, on top of that, has always had the image of, I don't know. I look at Mike Pence. It's like a calmer version of Ted Cruz. It's like he's still so limp. It's like, oh god, there's no passion, there's no strength, there's no an android.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ted Cruz he's like that, but it's just, I mean, like he can, you know, try to pretend to be all revved up and stuff like that, but he just sounds like he's just like reading lines. I don't know, like he doesn't sound real.
No.
You know?
Ted Cruz looks like old Wolverine with erectile dysfunction. I mean, it's you know, it's like
his face somehow melted.
Yeah,
Caught in a ray of some sort of.
Like I said before, instead of having claws coming out of his hands, like 3 flaccid penises coming out of his hands.
Quack, quack, quack.
Yeah, I
So he dick slaps you instead?
I don't even think he can reach that far. It's like,
hand dick slap you.
Oh, yeah, with my limp dick.
and Mike Pence is not kind of falls into the same ballpark. You know, it's like,
Oh yeah.
it's like I see these guys and I don't feel strength. I don't feel passion. I don't feel, you know. I feel yes men. They're yes men.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can tell them anything. Yes, sir. I will kiss your ass. That's what I feel when I see them.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's pathetic.
it's
pathetic.
It is pretty. All right. Anything else with that guy?
No, I think that was it.
Okay, fantastic. I forgot to do that, but I guess we do have a list, so it's not a top 10, but, you know, we'll do a list as well. Usually we do it in the other order. Usually someone's first.
Well, you know, let's, like, change it up to keep people on their toes.
Exactly.
They have no idea what's coming next.
Usually it's a top 10, but it's not a top 10. I thought we'd do something a bit funny and lighthearted today, and I've got
We
a top...
need it after last week.
I got a... I wouldn't even say it's not even a top, but a list of 34 funny town names. And these are
number one is...
Nice.
And these are real names of real towns around the world. And they're in a kind of descending order. Of, you know, start by with the letter Z. You can live in the town of Zigzag in Oregon in the U.S.
Sweet.
Yeah. You're not sure if you're
They
coming or
smoke a
going.
lot of pot there, don't they?
You're not sure. Yeah, the Zigzag Papers. You don't know if you're coming or going. Or you could live in the town of Yum Yum in Tennessee.
Wait, is Zigzag like because there's so many alligators? I just want to know.
It's in Oregon.
Oregon, so I
probably
don't
not.
think so.
Probably not.
Gotta run. They made the roads just in case of alligators.
I love it.
Or you can live in the town of Yum Yum in Tennessee, in the U.S.
Yum Yum.
Yeah,
Let's go there.
I'm sure they have good food. Or you could live in North Carolina, or in the town of Why Not, North Carolina.
Oh God! Jeez, what a minimalist town, man.
Why not? Why not live in this town? Why not?
Fuck it. I don't know.
Where do you live? Why not?
If you're a Star Trek fan, you might want to live in the town of Vulcan. This is in Alberta, right here in Canada.
I think I've been through there.
There's also a town in Western Australia called Useless Loop.
Woohoo! Let's go there.
It's just a useless loop.
It's just a useless
You just
loop.
go around in circles.
They kept it nice and simple.
Or you got a nice strip, but the strip's in a circle.
That's right. It used to be a NASCAR thing. Now it's just a useless loop. Or if you go in England to West Yorkshire, you can live in the town of Upper Thong.
Woohoo!
Oh, I like
You have a
that.
lower thong and an upper thong, apparently. Still in England, if you're not all that attractive, you can live around Essex. There's a town called Ugley.
Right on.
Ugly, but
I'll fit
spelled
right in.
Ugley. Ugly.
Oh God, that's too funny. It's just like not very good looking, huh?
I guess not.
Is it not attractive, or is that a last name? You think? Just
Or
saying.
if you happen to be around Arkansas in the U.S., you could use the town of Toad Suck.
Toad Suck?
If you feel like sucking on a toad, the town of Toad Suck is for you.
And that's Tennessee?
They're a bunch of acid heads.
In Ontario, Canada, there's a town called Punky Doodles Corners.
That's awesome. I would love to live.
Canada has some pretty wicked
Sounds
city
so
names.
You can't be more punk than living in
Punky Doodle.
Corners.
Right down
Punky
your
Brewster
address.
lived there.
Yeah. In Kentucky, in the U.S., there's a town called Possum Trot.
Trot.
Possum
Oh,
Trot.
God.
In Latvia, there's a town called Ogre.
Ogre?
Yes, like the mythical creature, Ogre.
I mean, it's Latvia, so it probably means something totally different, but that's
Maybe.
still awesome.
Coming back to North America, in West Virginia, there's a town called Odd. I live in a town of Odd.
Right? And it makes me think like there should be like, you know how they have that Erie, Indiana show? They should have a show like Odd. Like
Eerie and Odd. Right besides even.
a spin-off,
There's a town in Tasmania near Australia called Nowhere Else.
That's awesome.
Where are you? Nowhere
Nowhere
else.
Where do you live? Nowhere else.
Going back to the U.S., there's a lot of those in America, in the States, obviously. There's a town in Texas called My Large Intestine. It's probably right next to colon. Going back up north to Saskatchewan, you have, of course, Moose Jaw. Everybody knows Moose Jaw.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Moose Jaw's great.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
But if you go back down to Kentucky, there's a town in Kentucky in the U.S. called Monkey's Eyebrow.
I don't know, it kind of looks like a monkey's eye, but you just want to name it that? Yeah,
Sure. It's like, what kind of really wicked drugs were they on the day before they named the town?
I wish this list had also the origins of how the town was named like that. I really wish. Going to Virginia in the U.S., there's a town called Lick Fork. Obviously, those
They're
residents.
sucking toads, so they want to lick the
Don't
fork.
eat it. Bring plastic silverware to any restaurant. Just saying. Bring your own silverware.
You really finish your meals at that town. You lick your fork clean, mister.
They lick up.
Going to Australia, there's a town called Inaloo.
In a loo.
So if you need to use the bathroom, you go Inaloo. Still in Australia, but in the Northern Territory, there's a town called Humpty Doo.
Humpty Doo. But that sounds like a Willy Wonka thing.
Yeah,
or
it
something.
does.
I got the Oompa Loompas from
From Humpty Doo.
Humpty Doo.
Going back to Virginia, there seems to be a lot of Virginia towns in this.
Go Virginia.
Yeah. There's a town called Goose Pimple Junction.
Oh.
That's a little pussy.
Gross.
Now here's a different one. Let's go across the Atlantic here and go to Madagascar, right by Africa. There's a town called Go 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 Go.
That's because they never stop.
They never stop there, apparently.
They have like a bunch of dangerous animals. They're just like, go!
Go, 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 go,
Go.
Just keep going.
Don't watch. Don't. Whatever you do.
Don't stop. Just go.
There's Tasmanian devils around here. Go.
That'd be Australia. That'd be Tasmania.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Madagascar.
Yeah.
I always confuse
Those monkeys, right?
They both have cool animals.
Yeah, they do.
They totally do. If you go back to Indiana, there's a town called French Licks.
You'll fit right in.
I'll fit right in there. And staying
They
in
just add a lick to the kisses.
That's right.
That's right.
French kiss and lick. Going back to Virginia, we always love Virginia. There's a town called Fart.
Just fart.
Just fart. Just stop right there
Oh,
and fart.
God.
Oh my god, that's great.
Jumping to Minnesota in the U.S., there's a town called Embarrass. You don't want to live there. You're too embarrassed.
Because all the people there are very don't
Shamed.
do anything that could possibly
No.
get them to be embarrassed. Or maybe they all embarrass themselves all the time. Maybe it's a town of drunks. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, it could be.
Jumping across the ocean once again and going to Auckland, New Zealand, there's a place called Disappointment Island.
I've heard of that.
Oh god.
This is where your first date takes place usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't go to their theme park. Jesus.
And we were in Minnesota a few seconds ago. Let's go back to Minnesota. There's a town called Dinkytown there. Yeah, little Dinkytown. I love that.
I love that, too. I have to go on a road trip and drive to all these places.
There's a lot of U.S. towns in this list. Embarrassingly much.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
there's-
the best at naming shit.
There's a good one.
apparently.
Let's go to France. And there's a town called Condom.
Condom.
Well, at
Isn't
least
that
they're
perfectly
safe.
French? Isn't that perfectly French? Condom France.
Oh, it's perfect. Everybody's safe.
And going back to the U.S. in New Jersey, there's a town called Cheesecake.
Right on. Let's go.
Okay, now there I want to go right now. Right this second.
Sounds like a great town to be in. And jumping across the U.S., continental U.S. to the
They have
West Coast.
factories.
They have factories, yes. Jumping across to the West Coast in Oregon, U.S., you have a town called Boring.
I actually think I drove through there too.
Yes.
It was kind of boring.
Most towns are called that, like up in the panhandle of Florida. I know there's a bunch. I mean, it's not official.
But it should be.
Yeah, they're like, what's it like? They're boring.
They're boring. And let's jump all the way to the Middle East here. And there's a town in Turkey called Batman.
Awesome.
Yes! That is an awesome
it's
town name.
Is this Sister City Robin?
I don't know. But the town of Batman? Come
I
on.
want to visit Batman.
Me too.
I want to take a bath in Batman.
And this
Sick.
is I don't know if this is a funny name, but it's actually an odd name. You go back to Queensland, Australia. The town is called 1770.
Sweet.
It's the number 1770. 1770. That's the name of the town.
That's interesting.
I wonder if that's when it was
I
incorporated.
thought it had to be letters.
Yeah. Well, it's Australia. They can do whatever the hell they want. It's kind of upside down
That's
there.
just an address.
Yeah. And there was a town coming all the way to Canada.
I love this one.
It's called Climax
Oh,
in Saskatchewan.
nice.
And the number one winner for best named town is, of course, right here in Canada as well, in Newfoundland, the town of Dildo.
What?
Yes,
Oh
sir.
my god.
The town of Dildo is located near, and this is true, Conception Bay. And Spread Eagle has a nice view of Dildo Arm.
Yep.
Holy shit, the red light district? What's going on?
The
Is that
entire-
all it is?
The entire area is a red light district, apparently. The
Yep.
motto of the town is, "Our name will never change."
Go, Canada, go.
Go with that shit.
Oh, that was so
Especially
good.
East Coast Canada. They're the bestest people.
In the town of Dildo. Can
Yeah.
you imagine?
The people of Newfoundland are probably the friendliest people in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, It's not every day that you can say where you're from and have people cover their kids' ears. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you wonder if the people of the dildo in Newfoundland talk a lot to the people of Climax in Saskatchewan.
They're sister cities.
The sister cities, maybe.
I love it.
They're like, we should make like a train or a tunnel or something.
Yeah, no, that would go really far. Newfoundland's an island, so
Yeah, Newfoundland's on the East Coast, and Saskatchewan's like right down the middle of the country. So it'd be a hell of a trip.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it could be like a loop.
There we go, a useless loop.
Isn't Newfoundland where like planes were diverted after 9/11? I think so.
Some of them in Nova Scotia as well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry, totally random thought.
Random thought. That's our list. Okay, so let's take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll be back with Thomas Westbrook of the Holy Kool-Aid channel.
Woohoo!
So stay with us.
Prophet Azad video that they did with that. And it was written 300 years like after they were claiming to have, it had been written. So it was really just kind of a recount of like what had happened.
So the prophecy of the Four Kingdoms was written like hundreds of years after it supposedly happened?
Yeah.
Isn't that easy to do that?
Right. And it seems like that would have been hard for the time, but like you can tell that, the statue part was written before, right? But then each part they have added stuff to say this represents this and that represents that and that, and so it seems like it all like perfectly worked. But if it was written where they were like where it's saying it's like that's not surprising at all, They just added all these parts, and it's in 2 different languages, and it's like it was just quite interesting.
Thomas is ready.
Cool.
The one prophecy I always liked is the prophecy of the city of Tyre.
Of Tyre?
Tyre or Tyre, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. It's Ty. Yeah, I think it's Tyre or Tyr.
Huh.
Anyway, in the book there, God somehow destroys the city and said it will never be rebuilt again. And of course, it still exists today, obviously. So much for that fucking prediction. And then the apologetics are always, no, it's not what he meant. He meant to destroy the port of the city. They haven't rebuilt the port. It's like, fuck off.
That government, that one time, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
That one will never, because they're all dead. And so it's not the same. Jesus.
This is perfect because Thomas has got that nothing fails like Bible history.
Like Bible history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I love watching them. Like, I'll just sit and watch them on, they just keep playing once I click one. Right.
Yes. They're good videos. They're really good videos. I really enjoy.
Really fun.
Let's bring him in anyway. Thomas.
Oh, it's like changed for some reason. Oh. Is that it?
Just gonna bring him on.
Okay.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Thomas, how you
There
doing?
he is. All right. Taking the hair, man. Holy shit. You're like letting it go. That's great.
It's
It's going to all grow into itself at some point here. It's just going to all be one thing.
It's my quarantine due.
Wow, I love it. You got like the sound thing behind you on the wall there and everything. Look at you, man. You look like a professional in there.
Oh, the pads on the wall?
Yeah.
It's funny because right before I got on with you guys, I looked and this shirt had been in my my dresser folded, and so there was like a crease down the middle. I was like, oh no! And so I kind of got a little water, put it on, and then my shirt was wet. So I turned my fan on to dry my shirt, and the fan wound up knocking a bunch of these panels off the wall.
Oh shit!
Well, you don't have to worry about it, Thomas. We're not doing video anyway. We're just doing audio. So.
Well, they're held up with command strips and stuff.
Okay.
But they've been on there for like a year, and so the stickiness on them is not quite as strong as it was when they were first up. And I don't really care to reapply because I'm moving here in the next week or two. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Where are you going?
Still in Austin, just finding a new place to rent.
Oh, right on. Hell yeah. That's cool. I actually that's on my project list, is to put those up, and it's been on my project list, I think, for the last 6 months. So, but yeah, I'll get there.
My recommendation is get some. There's some Gorilla Glue that will adhere to foam, and put Gorilla Glue on the foam panels, and then take just regular command strips and press the command strips against the part where the Gorilla Glue is, and let it set for a sec. And then use a couple command strips, like 2 or 3 per panel, and put it on the wall. Because then when you take them off, you don't peel any paint off the wall. You don't damage the wall at all. You can use it on drywall. You can use it on just about anything.
Oh,
and
shit.
It's strong enough to keep these panels on.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
You know, it's funny because I saw a guy who did something like that, you know, for the soundproofing of his room, but he did it on a budget. So what he was taking instead were egg cartons. He would actually use pushpin and put egg cartons all over his room because of the shape of the egg carton.
It helps make it.
It helps the sound.
Oh, yeah, it's almost the same kind of deal.
Yeah.
Little diamonds in the middle, you know.
I mean, honestly, if you're doing podcasting and you don't care about how it looks and you just care about the sound of it, you can use just about anything. Like I've had rooms where I've just put blankets and pillows all over the place. I've gone into a closet and used the clothes that were hanging behind me to deaden the sound.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I've just been like in a dark little closet recording, and sometimes I've even like gotten in a corner and thrown a blanket over myself and the mic just to kind of make it a padded small little area. As long as it doesn't get too hot, you know, you can do just about anything. I just like this because, one, I'm in Texas and I don't want to have a blanket, and two, you know, because I do a video show, then it has to look somewhat professional too, and I figure just having a bunch of dirty clothes or hung up clothes behind me probably isn't going to be the greatest appealing thing to look at.
Plus, you're like forced to be at like 7.
Oh,
You cut out
right now, right? Like you're not. You have to be at like 80 degrees.
We just lost you there for a sec.
Oh yeah, we probably should just do audio because sometimes it can slow down the feed a little bit.
Okay,
might as well.
Gotcha.
I mean, you're good looking at Thomas, but you know, for the purpose of the show. Oh, by the way, Thomas, meet Sabrina. You guys haven't met yet.
No, hi. How are you?
Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, on that note, I think the problem is that I have I don't have the voice for radio. I have a face for radio, but not the voice for it.
We all do at this point, I think. No, I was telling. I'll keep it for the show. I'll save the compliments for the show. Thomas, I want to explore deeper your Holy Kool-Aid channel, obviously, and especially your little series of Nothing Fails, like Bible history and stuff like that. I love that. I really love that little series. I mean, I love all your videos, really. Is there anywhere you don't want us to go?
The only thing I don't usually mention is
that thing with the goat, right?
Do what?
That thing with the goat?
Ignore him.
We won't mention that. It's a secret.
All my deepest, darkest childhood secrets. I grew up as a missionary kid.
Yep.
And I don't usually mention the exact country by name. I'm happy to say like former Soviet Muslim country, but like the reason I don't, and you know, I wouldn't say this on air, but like my family still is overseas, and it can potentially be dangerous if like. I
totally understand. We had a guy that used to come on the show. He was from Iraq, and he came out of Islam, obviously, and he would still to this day not use his real name. We had to call him Jim. You know, so
yeah, and it's one of those things where my family already aren't super thrilled that I have a large atheist show, but if I'm outing them and doxing them and stuff, that would be kind of shitty.
Yeah, it would be. Not a problem. We won't go with that. I usually ask the people to give me a bio, so I'll let you give the bio of yourself here, and so you can go as many details or as few as you want. Perfect.
Cool. Sounds good.
Excellent. You guys, we're all ready to go?
I am.
Okay, recording in 3, 2. Well, our next guest is our returning champion, Thomas Westbrook of the Holy Kool-Aid YouTube channel. He's a snappy dresser and a snazzy dancer. Thomas, welcome back on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm surprised that you're familiar with my dancing capabilities.
Thomas, I've been a fan of you. I've been following you all the time.
Even when you don't know.
People don't know that most of Michael Jackson's moves are actually copied off Thomas.
That's right.
Absolutely.
But
It's like
keep
the
that teddy bear that we sent you, like, in the corner, pointing towards the middle of the room. That helps us with that.
So this is I'm having a Truman Show moment here.
Thomas, for the people that might have not heard you the first time you were with us, maybe you'd be so kind to give us a bio as to who Thomas Westbrook is.
Oh, I'm first and foremost, I'm a YouTuber. I create content promoting scientific skepticism and critical thinking, and I try to do it in laser-focused, bite-sized videos, often animated, and I cover a wide variety of topics. I have an insatiable curiosity and thirst for learning, and as I'm learning about things that I might have missed growing up, whether it's related to history or science or other interesting topics, politics sometimes, although I generally try to kind of avoid certain landmines, it's as I have these aha moments where I'm like, oh my God, how did I know that? Or that makes so much sense. And I'll know why when I say we, I mean general consensus, like scientific consensus, why experts believe the things that they believe, then I want to share that with other people because I think it's important for us as a whole collective society to know why we believe the things that we believe and to be able to uncrack that egg and share it with the public.
Thomas, I gotta say, just before the show, I was discussing with Brent and Sabrina how much I love watching your videos because there's something extremely relatable about you. I mean, you have this level of information in your shows. I called it. I really said they're RAW-esque information in those videos of yours. The research is profound. It's deep. It's factual, but unlike Arn, and which we love Arn, nothing wrong against Arn, we love him, but Arn looks like a big scary guy he's about to kill you. You, on the other hand, just look like the guy I just want to have coffee with, right? It's like, geez.
It's like the devil is explaining, why evolution works the way it does.
Or it's like, yeah, if you don't believe me, I'll take you outside and just show you how heavy that evidence is. But when I look at your videos, it's like, God damn, I just want to have coffee with Thomas. So you just have a knack. You're much more charismatic. I love that about you.
I appreciate you saying that. I have to say for Aaron, he actually is doing a fantastic job at shattering that stereotype because while he looks like this, angry, evil atheist or something, he is a big teddy bear and he's a really sweet guy.
He is.
Yeah,
I mean, I've met Aaron several times and in person as well, and he absolutely is the best. But if you don't know Aaron, you look at him the first time, you're thinking, "Oh my God, the Hell's Angels are coming to teach me about evolution."
Yeah, he looks like he was that last character that was never shown in The Devil's Rejects and The House of a Thousand Corpses. Like they just didn't feel they needed that footage,
Oh. But we love Aaron. But like I said, the fact that your level of information in your videos is, like I said, I'm complimenting you here because it is very thoroughly researched, and I really, really commend you on that. It's amazing the amount of information you grasp out of your videos, and they're fairly short videos too.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Hey, no problem. So maybe we should give a quick history about yourself as your apostasy. Would you be so kind to maybe share that with the rest of us? How Thomas Westbrook went from, I'm assuming you went from a religious background into apostasy?
Absolutely. I was an evangelical Christian for over 20 years. My upbringing was as a missionary kid. Grew up in the former Soviet Union in a Muslim country. And I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I believed in faith healing. I believed in miracles. I believed in speaking in tongues, the whole 9 yards. People often ask me what denomination I was, and it'd probably be closest to like Pentecostal or Baptist. My family was very conservative, but they didn't necessarily identify with just one denomination. It was more kind of a multi-denominational upbringing. So there weren't a lot of churches and a lot of Christians overseas, and so there was like one international church that we would go to. And it was a mishmash of, one Sunday you might have one style of worship, or you might have one pastor, and then the next Sunday it'd be different. And so I kind of got a little bit of exposure to different styles of church.
Would you consider it, like, did they themselves consider it non-denominational?
Well, the church itself literally called itself a multi-denominational church.
Okay. I've never heard that one. That's interesting.
I wish you would call it like a multi-dimension church. That'd be kind of cool instead, Multi-denomination. This is really
It's like where Rick and Morty go.
That's right.
We would have one Sunday, we would have like a woman up there playing traditional piano, just, almost like a not maybe a choir, but just very classic conservative. And then the very next Sunday, we'd have people up there with a full rock band and a drum set. And then the next Sunday, we'd have an ensemble from Kenya playing traditional African instruments. And so it was always a little bit different from like one week to the next. And I liked that. And as far as the teachings and the messages and stuff, I'm sure some people believed in, once saved, always saved, and others believed that, you could potentially lose your faith. Like, there were some differences, but it was always, well, we believe that you're saved by believing in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ and accepting it and stuff. So there were a few common ground points, but people weren't losing their mind over, oh no, you were sprinkled rather than submerged in your baptism, or you were baptized as a kid rather than an adult. Those things didn't really make the forefront.
No.
Like, wait, you're a Calvinist? Oh, no. Get the fuck out of here.
And it's so ridiculous too, right? It's like, oh, wait a minute, you weren't submerged, you were just sprinkled on the baptism? Heathen!
Thank God I was
It was actually interesting because there were Catholics who would go to that church sometimes, and and they would go and they'd worship and sit next to us and stuff. And so I always saw like Catholics as just regular Christians. And then I come back to the States and I'd hear other Protestants being like, oh, well, we need to save the Catholics too, and they're not real Christians. I was like, bitch, they've been Christians a lot longer than
exactly. They are the Christians. You guys came out of Catholicism. They are the Christians.
Yeah.
That always makes me laugh too. And then at some point, Thomas basically saw the light, and it was beautiful. he saw a reason.
Yeah, around college, I would say I started questioning. I had always been taught young Earth creationist points of view, that the Earth was 6,000 years old, that it was created in 6 days. And as I started really learning more about science and about how the world works, I started kind of peeling back the layers and realized that none of it added up, and that I had two competing points of view, and I had a whole lot more information and more evidence, and all of it fell in line with the old Earth. Even if there was like some first cause, like deistic spark to it, evolution is a fact. And so at that point, I started kind of shifting more from full-blown Christian to more theist, kind of general, didn't really believe in hell or demons. And I was learning about like psychology and things like sleep paralysis and epilepsy and things that are kind of attributed to demons, paranoid schizophrenia, etc. And so I started kind of filling in the pieces of this puzzle and realizing that there were better explanations that have traditionally been attributed to the supernatural. And as those pieces started filling up, I shifted more to like deist, and then more to I'm kind of more agnostic, and then full-blown atheist.
Oh, come on. You really think that there's better explanation for somebody's mental health than demons? Come on. What are you talking about? Demons are way more cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then essentially you started your own channel. And what was the genesis of starting the Holy Kool-Aid channel?
Well, I want to say around 2013, 2014, I was working my way out and started to kind of privately identify as an atheist. And I stumbled into a lot of atheist YouTube content on YouTube. And so I watched a lot of videos by, Seth Andrews, RN-RAW. I didn't so much get into atheist experience. I watched a fair amount of like Thunderfoot series, Why People Laugh at Creationists. And that was kind of eye-opening because a lot of the stuff taught by like Kent Hovind and others, I had taken as gospel and like, oh, hey, look, there's smart, Christians who are, scientists too. And I still think they're smart Christians, but like when it comes to creationism taught as science, it's utter nonsense, and that kind of disillusioned me of that. And then I started realizing around 2015, I was like, okay, how am I going to breach this topic with my parents? I kind of had talked to them about how I didn't believe in hell anymore, but I didn't tell them that I was an atheist. And I was like, I kind of want to put this into a channel. And also around like 2012, 2013, a lot of the former atheist content creators had started going more into like politics and social justice and feminism and anti-social justice and anti-feminism. And it was like there wasn't a whole lot of just kind of core atheist content that was like approachable, that was having these conversations. And living in the Deep South, where all of my family was either very either all of my family was very religious, or like all my coworkers, all my classmates when I was in college, I realized that there was still a lot of work to be done when it came to these conversations, that there's still a lot of denigration of atheists, and that we're seen as like monsters and like less trustworthy than like child abuse stuff. Yeah, and so I was like, hey, let's have this conversation. Let's normalize non-belief, and let's show that we're not just like, oh, these evil atheist traitors of the country, traitors of America. Like, we're just a bunch of normal people who just don't find the evidence very compelling, and we have morals, and we're good people, and we care, and we're kind and compassionate. And so I wanted to really shatter through that stereotype, and also kind of get back into YouTube when I felt like there was kind of a void in that kind of content. And shortly after I started, I went through a divorce, and as I came out of that, I was like, you know what? I couldn't stay in that town anymore. I needed to travel. I needed to kind of get a fresh, kind of almost like a recovery period. And so I went and I lived overseas, and I traveled around, and I was like, I think I can do this full time. I think I can make the YouTube thing work. I'm going to go live somewhere cheap for a little while and see how it goes. And so I did. And, 5 years later, here I am, full-time YouTuber making content.
Yeah.
So I want to ask real quick. I'm sorry, Kevin. Is there? Did you have like Kent Hovind videos like in your curriculum? Did they like show you those videos of what he was saying like as science class?
So that's really hard for me to say right now, because I remember when I saw Kent Hovind in some YouTube videos, like atheist YouTube videos, I remember recognizing him or seeing him and being like, oh, that guy. But I don't remember having him as like curriculum when I was growing up. But I do remember having books and things from like Answers in Genesis and stuff, but like all my textbooks were from like Pensacola Christian College's like A. Becca homeschooled curriculum, or like Bob Jones and stuff. And it was I literally had a book that was saying that dinosaurs still exist somewhere in like the Amazon, and that people have heard like strange sounds and seen large animals. And animals and humans live alongside each other, and there's like a dinosaur footprint with a human footprint inside of it, and that's proof and stuff. Yep. And that dinosaurs were on the ark, and it was just complete utter nonsense. And yet I heard that stuff, and I didn't really have the first inkling of like science in order to be able to like form a opposing position, or even know what the opposing position was to weigh the two side by side. And so I just kind of took it as gospel.
Wait a minute. Are you two telling me that the picture of the Confederate soldiers having shot down a pterodactyl is not real? I don't know what to think anymore.
I was convinced by that at the time. Now, I'm pretty recent.
Pterodactyl. But... It's the same pterodactyl as from Land Before Time 7.
No, oh, shit. That's so funny, because it's funny too, because I actually had the exact same experience. Like, once I started watching the videos, I was like, I know that guy, and I don't know why I know that guy. But I think I was shown videos of his when I was growing up, but it gets blurred after a while.
And there's stuff that I heard as a kid. Like there was one video. I'm racking my brain for the name of this dude. He was a big name in religion and politics, and he's talking about how, like, look, when we took God out of schools, everything went to hell, and all of the grades just went way down, and all these horrible things started happening. And when we stopped allowing kids to pray in schools, and I I didn't know the dude's name, but I had a VHS tape of it that I had to watch when I was, a kid, and I genuinely thought that we had to get God back in schools. And then years later, I heard his name, and I looked him up, and I was like, "Oh, that guy!" But I can't tell you his name. It was just as a kid, I just saw it, and I was like, "Oh, hey, that's an argument."
It's amazing the stuff they put you through as a kid, right? I mean, I was raised as a Catholic, and I remember going through Catholic school at some point, and they showed us a video on abortions called A Silent Scream. And my mind had kind of erased that till fairly recently, actually. And now I'm thinking about this, and I'm angry at this whole issue. It's like, why would you show me something like that as a child? If not to indoctrinate and brainwash me. It's amazing the kind of stuff they go to, the kind of lengths they go to.
Yeah. And it's, I actually, after I started, believing that, we have to get God back in schools in order for our country to not completely go down the shitter, I had that argument while, I think we were moving into a place back in Texas, and there's this guy from my parents' church, this older guy, he's probably 50, 60 years old, and he was helping us with stuff getting set up in the new home. And the whole time I'm arguing with him about how we need to get religion back in schools. And he was a conservative Christian who was arguing the exact opposite point. And he's like, what are you talking about? If we don't have neutrality, you realize they can teach Satanism or Islam. Do you want that to be a thing? The whole basis of, having separation of church and state is to protect, religious organizations from the government forcing any kind of religion on us. Shouldn't it just be neutral? And I was like, I didn't have good comebacks. I kept looking over to my parents, and they just kind of shrugged, and they're like, "This is on you."
You brought this on yourself.
Yeah, you opened that can of worm.
But at the same time, I kind of felt a little betrayed because I was like, "Hey, what the hell? You guys taught me this. This is help me out, back me up here." Yeah, and they were just like, "Nah."
They don't have good answers.
Maybe you and Brent can answer me that question for me, because it's interesting you mentioned that the whole God out of school, but in the same theology, and you believe this as well when you were a child, God is omnipresent. So why do we need to put him back in the school? He never left the school. I could never make that link as to why people don't understand that.
Well, not just that, but kids can still pray in school. Mm-hmm. If you're a Christian kid and you're sitting there eating your lunch in the cafeteria, and you want to whip out your Bible and read it during cafeteria time and say a prayer over your SpaghettiOs, no one's stopping you. No one's going to haul you off to prison for being a Christian. The only thing that they're stopping is from a school that's getting
the teacher,
government tax from saying this is the religion that you have to follow, or you have to do these things, because it's unfair to kids who, if there's a Hindu kid or a Buddhist kid or an atheist or a Muslim, to be you have to during this time pray to this God. That's incredibly offensive. Yeah. It's you're forcing your religion on someone, and that spits in the face of the Constitution and freedom of religion.
And could you imagine how badly these Christian families would freak out if some Hindu teacher told their kid they had to bow their head to Vishnu?
Yes.
And pray to Vishnu. Mm-hmm. They would lose their shit.
There was a picture going around of all these kids in a hallway, and they're all hunkered over, and and the Christians are like, oh, look, they're praying to Mecca, they're teaching them this, and they lost their mind because it looked like these kids were doing the call to prayer. But the dumb thing about it is that half of the kids were facing one direction and half facing the other. And if the first thing about Islam, it's one is supposed to face Mecca. And it's they weren't doing a prayer. It was a fucking earthquake drill or a tornado drill where they're like, all right, everyone, duck and cover in the hallways. And so all these kids are sitting there, doing this tornado drill, probably in Oklahoma or somewhere. And these Christians absolutely lost their mind because they're like, oh no, they're bringing Sharia law in. And it's,
oh my god!
God. If there's not a threat in any way, they'll make one. You know, if there's not something to freak out about, they'll make up something.
Well, you know, playing devil's advocate for half a second here, when we live on a sphere, facing whichever way ends up being east at some point, right? No. Yeah.
No, I guess right. I was thinking that. Do they if you're on the other side of Mecca, do you pray to the west? Like, I'm just saying.
It's like at what point? It's like if you cross the international date line, if you're exactly on the other side of the globe, at what point does east become?
And when you're
west?
in Mecca, which
way
do you pray?
When you're Mecca, yeah. Which way do you go? What if you're in the North Pole? Do you have to face south? I guess southeast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I gotta get this to get me the compass app on my phone to work. Okay, it's not working.
Well, and damn it. Here's the thing too: is if you're completely on the South Pole, instead of facing south, wouldn't you just face kind of more downish?
Yeah. I mean, that would work, right?
The South Pole, but on the other side of the Earth, on the other side of the equator, you just look straight down, stare at your junk and pray to God.
That's it, right? Yeah, just look literally down.
Do the ostrich thing. You just bury your head in the ice there.
I'd love to see these people they're in line at the gates, to heaven or hell, and they're just well, hold on, that one time you didn't pray in the right direction.
No.
You were close, but you were just slightly off. And sorry, man.
Well, if it's a straight line and you're around, the curvature of the Earth, then the straight line would literally, if it just kept going straight, it would just shoot off into outer space.
You're praying to Venus at this point. I was like, oh, jeez.
Are prayers affected by gravitational pull to where they can't leave orbit because?
That's an excellent question.
Because that's how satellites work. Is that they're flying off in one direction, but it's gravity that kind of locks them into orbit and keeps pulling them down and pulling them back. So your prayers would have to be affected by gravity if you want them to reach Mecca.
Yeah, I guess.
Right. They'd have to bounce back.
And why does God have to have Mecca as a hub for prayer collections? Is the little black box? Is that where he records all of them? And he's all right, looks like Bob over in Alaska is asking for more Cheetos. So
that's because right now they have the heavens iCloud storage. So now they've upgraded. So now you have Mecca's full now. So now they have to put it to the cloud as well for the prayers.
That's where the prayer variance authority is where they're just all recording the prayer.
Do you guys ever watch the show Firefly?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was in Firefly. Didn't they have New Mecca?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think so. Yeah,
it's been too long since seen it, so I don't know.
I know they at least mentioned it in Serenity, and it made me think. Unless I'm mistaking it with Chronicles of Riddick, I get my sci-fi mixed up. But I probably multiple shows, but it kind of begs the question of what happens after Earth.
Yes.
Where if Islam continues, do they have to move? Do they have to take the Kaaba and move it into space and put it on Mars or something? If we colonize another planet and Earth gets wiped out, religions are going to have to drastically change.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. Besides, and it's not just Islam. You've got the Ganges River in Hinduism and stuff. It's a ritual purification site, and it's that's going to be gone. That's not going to last forever. And the question is, are humans going to outlive these holy sites? Because some things like rivers can last for millions of years, and I don't know how much longer humans have on this planet if we don't take preventative measures against extinction.
I'm just hoping the religious stupidity doesn't last that long. I mean, by the time we have to move off the planet Earth, hopefully the religion thing is going to be something of the way past.
I am happy to see that atheism is on the rise.
Here's hoping, but. Mm-hmm. I mean, with the rate that we're going, though, I could actually see them being we're going to have to get Jesus' tomb out of here.
No, well,
okay, we're going to have to lift it, get the construction crew in.
No.
Get it in the ship.
Brent, they've gone past Jesus at this point. Now the new Messiah is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So you don't need to worry about anything now. Donald Trump's the new holy god.
Here's the sad thing is that if, let's say that they're all right, we have to evacuate the planet, and our spaceships can only hold this much weight, this much, food, this much, this many people, etc. And we don't have room for everyone on planet Earth. You know that there's going to be some people that are like, oh, we have to protect this holy, sacred, whatever. And there's going to be people that are left behind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that we can have these giant slabs of, granite and rock and stuff from these holy sites.
Yeah, it's absolutely maddening.
And they'll have the money to do it, though.
Yeah, it's a bit like a couple of years ago when Notre Dame in France went up in flames, and I was so enraged by the idea that 24 hours later they had $1 billion in donation for a Christian church. I mean, are you kidding me? There are people starving all over the world, and $1 billion in 24 hours for Notre Dame. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that'd be the majority of our resources would go to that bullshit. Yeah. We'll be like, nah, keep the poor people. I can't, fuck them. Can we get this big slab of concrete, though?
Yeah. Well, here's what I'm wondering is, you're saying hopefully we'll outlive, or our religions will not continue on past, a certain point. Eventually, maybe we'll, at the very least, they'll become moderate enough that they're basically just happy feelings and whatever the vague term spirituality tends to encompass for people who stare at the Grand Canyon and it makes them cry. If religion ends up at that point, then that's fine. But here's a thought experiment in a way. Let's say that we merge our minds with computer power, right? Like, we're able to augment human intelligence. We're able to, plug in and just massively increase the throughput of processing power of ideas in our brain. And all of a sudden, you're able to do the most insane mathematical calculations, and your brain is still able to function the same way it does, but you tap directly into the internet and you have all the information there, and you're able to process it and realize, like, oh man, this idea that I held was a logical fallacy and was based on cognitive biases and self-delusion, and this idea has incredible contradictory evidence, and here's why we know the things that we know. And all of a sudden, just in a moment, split second, within 10 seconds of plugging into this cloud computer system, you as a new brilliant transhuman instantly becomes an atheist. Let's say, or at the very least, you just abandon the faith of your childhood. And let's say that people start doing that in mass because, the benefits of being able to have that kind of super intelligence, all of a sudden now you're able to create new things and start a multi-million-dollar business and, make these inventions that solve the world's problems. So everyone is doing this because the reward way outweighs the costs. But that there are going to be millions of religious Luddites that put their foot down and they say, this machine is of the devil, it's making people deconvert, and they're basically going to be the new Amish. And that's going to be the case.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely, that's so true. That'd be the mark of the beast. I mean, that would be the new mark of the beast.
But you know what? That doesn't bother me because, the Amish today are not a political force to be reckoned with. While evangelicals are.
Also, all of the evangelicals who are refusing to upgrade their intelligence, I think it would be pretty easy to outsmart them at that point.
It's already easy.
Because that's the thing I was wondering, because Christians, we were just talking about the Amish, and it's Christians don't mind using all the technology and everything that is, using the science and stuff that is based on information that they are against in a lot of ways. Or came to us because of information they are against, so I wonder if they would be able to think their way around that. I don't know.
I think it'd be an easy sell because after all, the real religion they have, the Christianity has, it was never Jesus. It was always about money. So if you make them think that the upgrade to the supercomputer brain you want is somehow more lucrative for them, they will go for it.
I don't know. I think I feel like that's a distillation down where, for some people, yes, but I think it's largely more complicated than that. Because I know tons of Christians who, either live in abject poverty or are not swayed by money at all, and who have very deeply personal, spiritual, religious beliefs and relationships as well.
Yeah, absolutely, that's true. Yeah, I feel like I wonder if after they did that, they'd still try. After they uploaded and everything, they'd still try to say that. They would just say that a god did it because, dude, that is you can always apply unknown. Well, the computers hadn't figured it out yet, but actually evolution is because of a god, is because, you know what I mean? Like, you can always say that.
Yeah,
You know what?
God of the gaps.
We might get. You know how with Christian apologists, a lot of times you'll see, like, here's, William Lane Craig, or here's, someone who has like a PhD, or who's like, brilliant in whatever field. And they're somehow doing these crazy mental gymnastics in order to like account for, or claim the existence of miracles and things that are non-proven and utterly nonsensical. And they're doing it in a way that is requiring a tremendous amount of intelligence, albeit coming to the wrong conclusion. But they're defending it through all of these different, apologetic contortions. And they're contortions that the average, schmo Bob walking down the street going to his corn patch isn't going to be able to come up with. So the question is, if someone like that plugs into this, giant computer system and upgrades their intelligence, are we going to have like William Lane Craig on steroids, where all of a sudden the apologetic arguments get an upgrade for once?
Yes, that's exactly literally what I'm thinking of. It's like that's a good
question.
Totally what I'm seeing.
I think it's a good question.
Funny too, because I just watched, like, last night. Me and Nikki watched the debate between William Lane Craig and Christopher Hitchens, and it was like he did not hear Christopher Hitchens at all. No. He just, it was like his responses were not anywhere, like he didn't even address him. It was amazing. But anyway, so that, if you have that kind of attitude where you won't even address the other person in the room, I could totally see them having, with those super abilities, just being able to pull up the facts that they want to pull up.
Yeah, because after all, to make that leap, you need intellectual honesty. If you're willing to go over that and not be intellectually honest in the data that you now know, yeah, you're right. You could totally become a super William Lane Craig. You totally could.
Well, I think that there are some apologists who have intellectual honesty. They're just, their brains are wired differently. And so, if you're saying, hey, I don't believe because, I know that my mind is deceptive. I know that I can fall prey to, logical bias or, cognitive biases, logical fallacies, etc. Then, someone who's incredibly intelligent who comes along, they might see that, but their brain might be wired in a different way where their religious experiences are enough for them. And where to them, it's like, why are we starting from the base standpoint of like, a miracle is the least likely, least probable, like why not give it a shot and give it a chance and see where the evidence points? And so like, I kind of think this is the case with like inspiring philosophy. He puts out these videos that are very well produced. He clearly has done his research. He's, a very intelligent guy. And, having seen like long form interviews with him, I don't think that he is being, just dishonest deliberately. But I think he's coming to the conclusions based off of faulty reasoning. And I'm not sure how to break through to someone like that. But at the same time, it's like it makes for much more interesting discussions than just someone like Seitan Bruggencate who's just willing to like railroad over you.
Yeah.
Right. And like I've seen that, like, and I feel like Matt Dillahunty said this the other day, was like, the smarter you are, the better you are at rationalizing your cognitive biases. And so that becomes an issue, even though, because it's not really about being smart, it's having the information that is correct and being able to admit to yourself that I don't know, and I only know what can be, demonstrated, and I have to use whatever, whatever I have to use to make sure that what I know is actually true.
This is funny because this interview has not gone in the direction at all that I was planning for, but I love it nonetheless.
I'm sure it's my fault.
No, but it's a great interview nonetheless. But I'm bringing us back on track here. We were supposed to talk about nothing fails like Bible history, so let's get back to that. So Thomas, in your little series, I mean, it's a fairly short series you have at this point, and I'm sure you got plenty more shows coming down the pipe for those, but.
The Bible's a big book, so yeah.
The Bible's a big book, exactly. What is your favorite story of the Bible you'd like to, if you haven't done it already, that you'd like to actually tackle?
Oh, my favorite one that I would like to tackle, I am really kind of leaning towards Jonah and the whale, because I don't see a whole lot of atheists cover it. and yet it's one of the most obviously nonsensical, absurd stories. There's other stories in the Bible that I'm like, oh, that's a fascinating story, that's interesting, and some of them I even find value in. I'm like, hey, there's like a moral or a lesson or something to be learned, or this story's very poetic or very symbolic. And I don't want to just like throw out the entire Bible and be like, it's all trash, it's all garbage, it's all ahistorical. But there are stories, especially in the older parts of the Old Testament, before the Iron Age, where it's clear that they're built largely on mythology, and that they may preserve like a tiny hint of a memory that was passed down through oral history, but nothing like the stories that are told in the Bible. Like maybe there was a small, local flood that was preserved in, like ancient Mesopotamia, and just like there are flood stories anywhere that's close to a river or a lake or an ocean, but these grand, the global flood story, complete nonsense. This massive exodus of millions of people out of Egypt that then came through and just destroyed and demolished all of Canaan and set up this grand united kingdom. That didn't happen.
Yeah, I was rewatching those this morning, actually. I love those little videos. But it's funny you mentioned Jonah and the whale. You do realize now that Michael Packard, which actually this week was actually said to have been swallowed by a whale near Cape Cod. Did you guys hear that story?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, this guy's a lobster diver, and he was diving down there, and he was grabbing some lobsters out of cages, and he was accidentally swallowed by a whale. Now, of course, in the whale, he spent like 30 seconds inside the mouth of a whale until he was spat back out.
Yeah.
And he had the scuba diving equipment so he can breathe and everything. Of course, the esophagus inside the whale is actually too small to actually swallow a man and actually go inside his, But nonetheless, he's making the rounds all over the U.S. right now. He was actually literally swallowed by a whale for 30 seconds and then spat back out. So full well the apologist is going to say, see, it happened to this Michael Packard guy. It must have happened to Jonah too, right?
Well, I mean, it sounds like that whale was more of a spitter than a swallower.
10 points for that one.
For real, though, I see people, make comparisons like that, and it's like, doesn't swallow be like if I put some Cheerios in my mouth and then like spit them out, I didn't swallow the Cheerios.
No, you just put them in your mouth.
This whale is like, okay, so it comes along, it has a giant mouth, like the biggest whales in existence. Yeah, they can fit a human in their mouth,
of course.
But like you were saying, they're not able to swallow a human. Their esophagus isn't big enough.
Yeah,
and so and even if they did, the human is going to be destroyed, like completely melted in stomach acid. As soon as his scuba tank runs out of air, he's going to suffocate. It's not like there's air in a whale's stomach.
Yeah.
And the Christians will come along and be like, oh, it was a big fish, and I'm like, oh yeah, because big fish stomach acid is so much less like toxic.
That's right. That just hurts your case more, doesn't it? Like you'd be like, yeah, it's not even a thing that breathes there. Yeah. That's gonna help. Jesus.
Not that there's air in the stomach. Like, what? Did he get swallowed by the whale and he found his way into its like windpipe?
Like broke through.
No, did you guys see?
There's some air up here.
Did you guys see the documentary by Disney called Pinocchio? They spend it on this little raft inside the whale there, and they're building a campfire and everything.
Just what I was picturing. Because it's about as true as Pinocchio.
You hear stories like that, and it's just like, what kind of hoops do you have to jump through to think that you can like live in an oxygen-free stomach acid bath, completely constricted and squished down, when like you can't even fit through the esophagus of a whale. Like in this type of scenario, it's like, not to mention the pressure that the immense pressure that you would be under, because these whales are diving to these depths that a human's brain would fucking explode at.
Yeah.
Right. That's another good point.
Damn you and your logic.
It reminds me, it's funny. It's like the same reason I check my back seat every time I get in a car. Is because, like, but the fact that people tell, like, we have, like, urban legends, right?
Oh, come on. I did that to you once, Brent. Come on.
It wasn't funny.
I didn't know guys did that,
now I check
too.
my back seat.
I really didn't know guys did that. I thought that was only a girl thing.
Checking the back seat of the car?
Oh, yeah. Women they're told to check the back seat.
Yeah.
I've got so much stuff on my back seat. If somebody is on my back seat of my car, he deserves it.
But I mean, it's the fact that it's told like it's real.
Yeah.
But there's relatable things there, which is odd because, I think that the fact that we have so much information about how the world works and everything, and now in these days, right? Back then they didn't really have that, so anything could be real. Like, you know what I mean? But it's the fact that you tell these stories that, I mean, the hatchet guy in the back seats, that's not that crazy or anything. That's not that interesting. But the fact that people said that it really happened, now that made it interesting. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And and so I feel like it's just the urban legends of back in the day, right? I mean, it's that.
It's weird because on that note, the horror movies that used to terrify me the most were all related to demons when I believed in demons.
Yeah, me too.
Whereas the horror stories that terrify me the most now are the ones where like someone seems perfectly normal and all of a sudden they like, turn out to be completely psychotic and like a serial killing murderer. Because I'm like, that shit can actually happen.
Yep.
And that's terrifying, or when you have like a kid, like a little kid that like murders its whole family, and it's just like, shit, like that's terrifying. It doesn't mean that I'm like terrified of like kids or whatever, but like you watch these horror movies and they're more psychological thrillers. It's more like, holy crap, like the human brain is like can be really unpredictable, and some people are complete psychopaths and narcissists and stuff, and you can't tell the difference sometimes.
Oh, let's face it, when you're watching a horror movie and you hear kids laughing in the background or like some little chanting rhyme or something like that, that's where the hair on the back of your neck stands up.
Kids are fucking creepy, man. Like, they just are. Like, and most people that have kids, if they wake up in the middle of the night and they're staring at them, know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, it's unnerving because it's not supposed to happen. Like when you go out into the woods late at night in like the mountains, and then you hear like a kid giggle, it's like shit.
What
that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's out of context.
Oh my god!
It's like this uncanny valley of like when you see like a human face that's like not quite a human face. It's like drawn and sketched, but it's not like so far removed that it's like a cartoon, and you're just like, that makes me feel very uncomfortable. It's the same type of thing.
It's unsettling for sure. Absolutely.
So we talked about Jonah and some of your favorite stories. What story of the Bible do you think would be the easiest one to debunk?
Noah's Ark, hands down.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'll just off the cuff. I mean, I can give you a few things. One, there's no evidence whatsoever of a global flood in the geological layers. We know exactly what flood layers look like. You're able to see places where there have been floods, where there have been glacial drifts. You're able to see how long it's taken for layers to be laid down. You can perform various radiometric dating on different layers. You can figure out which ones were laid down first. It was over the course of millions of years. You look at the story of Noah's Ark and how many millions of species we know have existed on planet Earth. And it's like, did they fit all of those on the Ark? And if they only put like, 10,000 kinds, you would have a rate of evolution so fucking fast. It's mind blowing that everyone didn't get cancer from that level of mutation rate.
Right.
Not
First of all, I got to do a critique. You said the word kinds, and that's upsetting. But no.
No, I mean, the Christian used the word kind. So when they talk, instead of saying they had like
Species,
tigers
genus,
and lions and leopards, they had one cat kind.
Oh, fuck that.
So to kind of reduce the group and to reduce the number of animals that could have been on the Ark.
That was literally in my schooling. Was the word kind was kingdom, phylum, class, order, kind. Genus, species. So it's just, it's a pet peeve at this point, but it's sorry.
Well, kind of unkind.
So I mean, here's another thing: is just the elephants alone. Let's say that instead of having like African elephants and like is it Asian or Indian elephants or whatever?
Yeah.
If instead they just had like the elephant kind, even still, an elephant consumes about 300 pounds of food in a single day. So if they were on the Ark for a year, like the Bible says that they were, then you're looking at 300 pounds times 365, and that's per elephant. You're looking at 109,500 pounds of food just for one elephant, and then you multiply that times 2. Now, did they have dinosaurs on the ark too? Did they have, a T-Rex and, stuff? Like, how did the T-Rex get by without eating animals? Did they have to have,
They were eating coconuts. That's what Ken Ham said.
And it's like their stomach can't handle and digest. A lot of carnivores can't digest food that isn't meat.
Yeah, they're obligate.
Yeah.
And
like cats, for example.
And all of the vegetation on planet Earth would be completely wiped out and destroyed. Even the vegetation that lives at the bottom of the sea, like kelp forests and stuff, if you get this massive mixing of fresh water and salt water, it's going to destroy like the alkalinity. It's the water is going to be less salty. There's going to be more pressure because the sea level is higher. You're just going to have 1,000,001 factors that are going to make sea life get completely wiped out. The rain is falling at this speed that's just absolutely insane. Everything on Earth would be shredded.
Yeah. I mean, the idea, the altitude. If it covers everything on the Earth, that means your boat is floating higher than Mount Everest at this point. You'd be freezing up there. You'd be actually freezing.
You wouldn't be able to breathe.
No, exactly.
That, and like I always wondered, like how then did fucking saltwater and freshwater become saltwater and freshwater again? Like,
I mean, you could have evaporation and, the clouds is basically a distillation process. But as far as, how are there, massive pockets and stuff of fresh water, like underground and in lakes and stuff, like...
Wouldn't it have evidence of salt water there?
Do what?
I'm sorry. Wouldn't there be evidence of salt water there? Like, if it had all mixed...
If it had been salt water at one point, became fresh water later.
10,000... Yeah. Less than 10,000 years ago. It had all mixed. And then it distilled back, like you said, down into like the ocean and salt water.
Wouldn't there be salt deposits?
Yeah. Wouldn't there be evidence of that? Like of salt water somehow still in the fresh water? Or something?
I would think so. I'm not positive on that. But yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, another thing too is if every single animal is wiped out down to like one of each kind, like where you have, oh, hey, look, we got 2 zebras and 2 cheetahs, whatever. The genetic bottleneck would be so tiny that at that point, your chance of bouncing back is virtually nothing. Like once you get down to there was a point where cheetahs got down to a very small number, and they were able to bounce back, but they're incredibly inbred now. Yeah. And so almost every cheetah is basically related to another one, and they have a tremendous number of genetic defects because of this inbreeding that happened thousands of years ago. And so as with the cheetahs, like they're still struggling with that. And we don't see that without every other animal on Earth. We just don't. We don't see that lack of genetic diversity. And so if you had a situation like Noah's Ark, you wouldn't just see it with the cheetahs. You'd see it with every single other animal where there would just be no genetic diversity and they'd be tremendously inbred. And they'd be susceptible to all kinds of genetic illnesses.
Makes perfect sense.
It does. So we just spoke about the easiest story to debunk Noah's Ark, but in your mind, which one would be the hardest one to debunk? I mean, they're all debunkable, obviously, but which one do you think would be really hard to break apart?
Well, here's the thing. I don't aim to debunk all of them because some of them are true. So, for example, the existence of like King Hezekiah, right? Like,
yeah, fair enough.
Almost certainly a factual story. That we've found evidence of his seals. We've found an inscription like on a tunnel. We've have extra biblical mentions of him. There's various invasions and stuff, and the same with. If you look through the Old Testament, you look at the kings lists in the Old Testament, you're like, okay, there was a king named Omri. He's the first king that is mentioned outside of the Bible, that we have other nations mentioning the existence of King Omri. And the same with King Ahab, who was one of his descendants, and that's the Omride dynasty. Archaeologists don't dispute that. They don't. There's no reason to. It's like, hey, it looks. We have evidence for this. Probably happened, and the descriptions of various invasions of like the Assyrians and the Babylonians and stuff, like we have plenty of evidence both in the archaeological record and mentions from outside of Canaan itself in the surrounding nations talking about these events. And so it's like in those cases, like I don't want to give the impression that absolutely nothing in the Bible is historical. There are things that it's like I don't care to debunk. I don't plan to debunk. In fact, I believe that they happened. It's when you start getting to these grand mythological narratives and these huge, over the top miraculous stories and origin stories where like I want to show people that like you cannot take everything in the Bible as straight up perfect, divinely inspired history. The later stories, like I'm saying with the Omride dynasty, King Hezekiah, King Josiah, all of that stuff, that's happening later on, like in the Iron Age. It's happening in a time period that's much closer to when the Bible was probably written down. And so people are writing about things that they're seeing, they're writing about things that they've experienced, people that they know, and so there's a lot more factual content to it. Is everything there historical? No. There's talks of like different miracles and stuff with Daniel and the lion's den and the fiery furnace and stuff, but as far as like the people that are mentioned, there's a lot more historicity there. And it's when they start going further back in time that they're writing about things that maybe have been passed down through oral legend, through song, maybe have had some fragments of text written down a few hundred years ago, writing about something from 600 years ago, and the stories have become more grand and elaborate, and they're blowing them up out of proportion and creating this origin story to maybe unite their people together to form around some sort of religion or some one god or something. And that's when you start seeing all of these elements of these grand creation stories trying to explain how we got here, these stories about Abraham being chosen by God, these stories of millions of people exiting out of Egypt and being set free in the Red Sea parting, the grand conquest of Canaan. And then you start having all these prophets and miracles and stories of how the prophets are trying to tell the Israelites, hey, we need to come back to God, and that's why we're having all these problems, and that's why we're having all these invasions, and God is giving us up to be taken in conquest, is because we're worshiping all these idols. And so they're trying to, after the fact, justify and explain this stuff and also unite around one religion. And so I don't think that everything in the Bible is ahistorical, and that's not the goal of my series. But the stories that when someone comes along and says, oh, it's 100% factual, 100% literal, you can't deny any of it, it's all the inspired word of God, then they'll use parts of the Bible that are harmful and teaching, might bash the LGBT community and say that they should be put to death. There's incredibly sexist verses. There's verses that condone slavery that were used to argue in favor of slavery. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible that when you take it 100% as gospel, you can end up in a really dangerous place. And I want to encourage people to approach it from a less biased, more nuanced position of saying, some of it might be historical, some of it's not, but this isn't perfect. This is not divinely inspired. At the very least, it's been changed through translation and misinterpreted multiple times. Let's treat it more as we would something like the Epic of Gilgamesh or Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. And we can maybe learn a thing or two about the culture, maybe learn some stuff about the history, but not treat it like it's this perfect, infallible religious text.
Exactly. I got to ask, right now, which version of the Bible are you using to do your research and your shows?
It depends. I
guess the question I'm asking is do you plan down the road? Because if you go, for example, for the Catholic Bible, there's several books that the other Bibles don't necessarily have. Do you also plan to exploring some of these stories as well?
I haven't really gone into any like apocryphal texts or anything. Sometimes I might mention it if it's like, hey, in the Book of Enoch, there's this mention of whatever, because sometimes looking at extra biblical texts, it can kind of give you a little bit of an idea as to like maybe what people might have thought at the time, or some alternative perspectives on certain things and stuff, to realize that it wasn't just everyone believed this, that sometimes there were some divisions, and sometimes the way that we've seen things has changed over time. But as far as the Bible goes, I tend to stick with, I know a lot of people are NKG purists where they're like the New King James and that's the perfect translation. I was never an NKV. Sorry, did I say New King James Version, NKJV? I was never really in that camp, and most I don't know, evangelicals aren't in that camp, except for maybe like the New Independent Fundamentalist Baptists, or a few others. I know there's more than that, but to me, that version has so many issues. I tend to be more NSV. It seems to stick a little bit more to the original, but I have used the NIV as well. Sometimes it just depends on like if I open up Bible Gateway and I'm like, hey, this here's this translation. And the thing that I do like about the NIV is that it's easy to understand, and it's also one of the most widely used versions in the world. And so I'm like, if this version is being used by 1 billion Christians or 500 million Christians or whatever, then I'm not going to be able to please everyone, but enough of them will say, yes, this is also the inspired inerrant word of God.
Exactly.
I remember.
I don't have an issue with NIV.
I remember like being. I went to a shelter for a bit there, and I didn't have a place to stay, and like they were crazy about the fact that you had to have, and it wasn't New King James, it was Old King. You had to have the Old King James version because all the versions took the word Jesus out so many times, like and the NIV was just the most evil thing ever because they would say him and his instead of repeating the word Jesus over and over. Like, it was weird.
That would read so awkwardly too if you're like, and then Jesus went up on the sermon or on the mountain, and Jesus said this, and Jesus went here and knelt down, and Jesus did this to the person who follows Jesus.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It was. They're just like they still capitalize the he and his is like, come on, like
Jesus spoke to Jesus followers. It's like, wait a minute.
And that's how it's written too. The Old King James. It's obnoxious. It really is.
Thomas,
hey, at least you know who they're talking about.
Yeah.
Thomas, last little question before we let you go. For the new apostate, the ones that are coming out, the ones that are looking, they're starting to have doubts and all that. What would you recommend for the new potential atheists out there?
What would I recommend? To explore these topics.
Exactly.
Where should they start looking?
I mean, it depends on what they're interested in. If they're interested in like how science works more so than just like, hey, this is the scientific method, but like actually like the process, I would recommend checking out the works and lectures of like Carl Sagan. The book Demon Haunted World is fantastic. Mm-hmm. It'll give you a primer into scientific skepticism. How do we know what we know? Why should we not just believe all the claims about paranormal phenomena, ghosts, UFOs? Like it's a great starting point. There's a YouTuber, Potholer54, who really goes into how science works and how peer review works and the literature, and it's been immensely helpful for me. That channel. He also does a lot of stuff on climate change. Fantastic. When it comes to community and kind of finding a community of people, there's a new smaller show called Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist with Ethan Michael. Is really good. He does a bunch of shows. Seth Andrews is always a good starting point. As far as the history of religion, there's a show called Religion for Breakfast that has kind of a very nuanced, neutral approach and kind of teaches this stuff without just playing into the biblical narrative. And then I also cover history on my show as well. But those are some good starting points. Genetically Modified Skeptic's a good channel. Mm-hmm. Skeptic Generation is a new show by Eric Murphy and V. LaBianca, and they do a call-in show, so if you want to talk to atheists and get their perspective on stuff, you can always call in there as well.
Fantastic. Thomas, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. Really appreciate that. The channel is Holy Kool-Aid. Look it up, guys. It's really worth following. Great information. Thomas, before I let you go, I got to have you say, hi, this is Thomas Westbrook of Holy Kool-Aid, and I took a left at the Valley.
Hi, this is Thomas Westbrook of Holy Kool-Aid, and I took a left at the Valley.
Fantastic.
My pronouns are Jesus.
Thomas, off air there between you and I gotta ask you about the political situation in the U.S. I know we didn't want to dwell too much with that, but how dangerous do you think the faith has become in your country?
It depends.
I mean, I was watching some of the videos you made about the insurrection of the January 6th and all that stuff, and I completely agree with you. And I think it's becoming more and more warning, because it's like, geez, these people are not quitting. These people are willing to start worshiping Donald Trump. This is getting really, really nasty.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, Donald Trump is going to continue to be a cult figure for a while, but since he's been removed from Twitter and doesn't have a whole lot of a social media presence, and a lot of media outlets don't really want to touch him or cover him anymore, he's slowly kind of sinking more into obscurity, which is a good thing, because right now, like, the right wing don't really have a great alternative when it comes to social media. That said, cults always find a way, and what we're finding is that the extreme radical base are now forming on other platforms, and they don't have an alternative perspective. And so for us on, you know, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and stuff, we're not seeing it as much. So it seems like things are getting better, but just because it feels like they've gone away in our backyard, it doesn't mean that they're not mobilizing in someone else's.
Well, that's exactly what earlier during the show, before we brought you on, we were talking about how Q has come to Canada now, and we were talking about how this woman now is calling herself the Queen of Canada, and she's actually they're selling cease and desist notices to police and government and businesses, and she's calling for them to be executed, and she's forming a political party. So this is getting really, really dangerous, in my opinion. Yeah. And even though Donald Trump himself seems to be muted, the myth of Donald Trump seems to keep on snowballing. You know, eventually you'll be hearing things about, you know, it reminds me of several years ago, there was a story about this village in Indonesia where they found an angel. And it is a remote village, and then within a couple of months, there were myths about this angel crying, and, you know, and miracles. And when the authorities came to investigate, they found a sex doll. They found a sex doll that the indigenous people, whoever they were, found in a swamp, and they dressed her up with a hijab and stuff like that. But and this is like 2016, I think. So we're talking like very short time ago in the 21st century, and within a couple of months, people are already talking about miracles about from a sex doll / angel. So when you hear something like Donald Trump like that, it's not that much of a stretch to think that eventually there's going to be stories about Donald Trump about how miraculous he actually is.
Yeah, it is wild, because it's what I think. Here's, if I can offer a small glimmer of hope.
Please do.
It's that after the insurrection at the Capitol, you saw a number of conservative congressmen and women kind of flip sides, and at the very least become less supportive. You know, people like Mitch McConnell become less supportive of Donald Trump. And I think that the nation as a whole, there were a lot of people, with the way that he handled COVID, with the way that, you know, he incited violence at the Capitol, with the way that he refused to hand over power peacefully, and he was, you know, had all these election conspiracy nonsense claims. I think that there are enough conservatives who are not cult of Trump, and enough Christians who find Trump's behavior reprehensible, including my parents, who, what if Donald Trump tries to run again, I don't think he's going to get the full-blown endorsement of the Republican Party. And I think what you're going to see is a Republican Party divided. So he's either going to have to run as a third party, or, you know, he's fighting for the nomination. And there's tremendous amount of dislike for him, not just from, you know, progressives and liberals. And so if it's quite possible that you're going to see the Republican Party get split in two between the party of Trump and the party of kind of traditional conservatives. And if that happens, then that's going to be a huge blow to, because, you know, it's sort of like a house divided against itself can't stand. Like it's going to be difficult for them to really make a difference when they're, and to make changes, I think, for the worse. if their party is split like that. And part of me kind of hopes that happens. But at the same time, his radical base is going to continue to become more extreme. And the question is, are they going to start being more violent? Are they going to start bombing more abortion clinics? Are they going to start, attacking Congress people, like they did with storming the Capitol, but actually like pulling a Gabrielle Giffords and, shooting Congress members? Especially given that so many of them are either preppers or, adamant gun rights activists who have massive stockpiles and probably should be on FBI watch lists if they're not already. It's troubling.
It's very troubling. As Canadians, we always keep a very close eye on what happens in the U.S. And, it's like this, what was it, this week or last week? You got guys like Tucker Carlson that's starting to say that, the FBI was behind the whole January 6th insurrection. It's like, holy crap, what the hell's going on down there?
And you got to remember, that's a major news network.
Yes.
That isn't like, it's not
OAN, it's not Newmax, it's Fox News with the biggest show on television.
The Requiem for a Dream soundtrack wasn't playing in the background while Tucker Carlson was saying it.
Thomas, I hope you're correct. I hope you're right. I'm not sure I agree with you on that, but I hope you're right for your country's sake. That's for sure.
I could be wrong, and I know it's incredibly widespread. I know it's there's a lot of people in the South that are torn over it. I know families that are torn apart over the whole Q thing. But I also know a lot of people who thought that COVID was a hoax until them or a family member got it and they were like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. Is this real?
A lot of people who wholeheartedly followed Trump, and then he tried to have a coup that, took down the government, and they were like, oh shit. And I know a lot of people who have been disillusioned, and I'm hoping that if the next 3.5 years of Biden are peaceful, economic recovery, it turns out to not be this terrible end of the world fear-mongering scenario. I'm hoping that everyone who has been trumpeting it as that, and who has seen, oh, hey, actually things haven't really been that bad these last, 4 years. I'm hoping that if Trump comes back, then all of that fear-mongering will be seen as,
exactly that, fear-mongering.
Screaming that the sky is falling, crying.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, the fact that you mentioned COVID, I think exactly is a point I was just about to make. Is like, even Trump now has admitted he's taking the vaccine and the COVID is a thing. Yet, still, his Q followers still insist that it's a hoax.
Yeah.
So even what Trump says now doesn't seem to really matter to these people anymore. This is the Q movement is taking a life of its own at this point. So
here's what's worrying is Trump is 75 years old right now.
Yeah.
And so the hopeful thing is if in 3 years he's 78, he's not exactly the fittest, most healthiest person. So
he dies before that, really. But
hopefully he's not going to live that much longer.
Yeah.
But even if he does, by the time he's 78, how much charisma and energy and intelligence is he going to have to be able to run for president? What worries me is Biden is even older. Biden's 78 right now, so he's going to be in his 80s in 3.5 years. And so I genuinely can't see Biden being he has a huge thing going for him in that he's the incumbent, but I'm also not sure that I want to have an 80-year-old president because you reach a certain point where you're so old that like the president is a huge responsibility, and it takes a lot of.
It's a tough job.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of mental effort and exertion, and he's got to keep up with things. And as you start getting older, it's hard, man. I think there's, and this is going to be a controversial take, but I think that there should be a limit on how old you can be and lead a country.
Well, there really almost should be a mental test of acuity for president. I mean, after all, you guys had Ronald Reagan, and he wasn't the fittest one mentally there, right? Yeah. So maybe there is hope for Biden after all. Thomas, thank you so much, man. This unedited version that we're still recording right now, that's usually for the patrons, is going to air today, but the regular show is probably going to air tomorrow. I will send you a link as soon as it's up there, and feel free to share it as much as you want. And you're always welcome back, my friend. You're part of the family as far as we're concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah, take care.
Have a good one.
Ladies, man.
No, I love Thomas. Thomas is awesome.
Yeah,
he's really
awesome,
nice.
dude. I really do like him a lot.
He does fantastic work. I think I haven't supported anybody on Patreon for a while because financially I wasn't able to, but now I'm getting back to normal, and I'm going to go, and him and David Fitzgerald are two people I really would like to help a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
On Patreon. So I'm going to do that. Perfect. Let's finish this, guys. Okay, 3, 2. And that was Thomas Westbrook of Holy Kool-Aid. Fantastic guy. Fantastic information. Love him.
Yeah.
I love it when we have smart people on the show.
And we usually do, actually.
I know.
I'm the dumb one on the show. So.
He's actually really
too.
interesting to listen to, not just here, but on his channel as well. His videos are really informative.
Yes, like I said, his channel is chock full of really useful information, and
It's factual.
It's factual, and it's easy
Well
to present.
researched.
And if a dumbass like me can figure it out, then it's easy to understand. And I think a lot of people look at these channels and they don't want to listen to them right off the bat because they're afraid that it's going to be just like talking heads and just talking about boring things. But no,
He's quite
it's
entertaining as well.
Yes, he is. He is, and I love the way he puts
Keeps it fun.
just like we do on our
cartoons,
show.
yeah.
He'll put a little sound effect in the background or something like that, and that really talks to me a whole lot. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. He loves to do that. I like the little cartoons too. I mean, crosses his leg and he's talking. And
Yeah, exactly.
Tapping his arm.
fingers.
Yeah. That's great.
So, thank you so much for Thomas Westbrook for being with us, and thank you my co-host Sabrina and Brent for being with me, and thank you for listening. You can follow us at the left. You can send us an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. You can check our website at leftatthevalley.ca. Don't go to .com. You don't want to go that one. You can follow. You can help us on Patreon. Patreon.com/LETV. You can follow us on
Twitter.
Thank you.
Facebook.
Twitter. Brain fart. Twitter and Facebook at LETV Podcast. Okay. Oh boy. Coming up. What do we got? Where's my schedule? Okay. We got Owen from the Skeptical Texans will be with us next week. So that should be fun. Nice. And we'll also down the pipe we also have Catherine Roberts, as she just escaped as well. She was a fundamentalist and she escaped that, so that's going to be fun. We'll also have the Godless Heathens are coming with us. That's in July. And of course, we'll also have Andrew Torres. We'll be talking abortion with him. Mm-hmm. So and I've got other guests coming down the pipe as well. So we always have some great people coming.
Always.
What else we got? Brent, quick plug, Unapologetics.
Unapologetics. Look, if you want to check out the panel stream, go to YouTube and search Unapologetics spelled with an X, panel stream, and like and subscribe, and you'll always get the live version updated to you to let you know when it's coming. Mm-hmm. And you can watch us live for the panel episodes, and we do other episodes as well.
Yeah.
And check that out.
And the live panel, feel free to come in and join on the show and ask us questions, whatever. We try to answer them on the air as we go, so that's always fun.
Yeah, very interactive.
Mm-hmm, definitely, it's a lot of fun.
Excellent. Anything else we need to add?
Have a great week.
Excellent.
As always.
Thank you, guys. Until next time.
Vishnu, you don't believe in them. I think the reason is apparent. You do what you're told and believe in that God assigned by your parents.
We'll add the rest.
Mm-hmm. I really got I'm an idiot and booked a bunch of tattoos on a Sunday at noon. So, and my first one is when we have Andrew Torres. So I'm gonna see if I can push it back an hour.
Oh yeah.
By the way, just so that you guys know, let me see if I can find it. I've got an ex-Hindu atheist. Mm-hmm. He's part of exhinduatheist.com, so I said that we'd like to bring him on the show. There's a few other ones. Where are they?
But you haven't booked him yet. Right?
No, I haven't booked him yet. I mean, I said we'd like to have him on the show, but...
Mm-hmm. We want to take a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday trip somewhere.
Yeah, I know this is summertime coming for you as well, Brent. So I don't know if you had like any vacation plans or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, for the other show, my schedule's about to change. Like tomorrow, I got to go in at 7 to 5:30, Monday through Thursday, and then it's because 10-hour days, and then and it's just 4, and then I get Friday off, so that's kind of cool. But other than those 4 days, I'm pretty set.
Okay.
We're just gonna probably have to make it earlier on Wednesday.
Yeah, for the lives. Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
I also got a guy by the name of John Richards. He's the vice president of Atheism UK, and he's an ex-publication director of AAI, and he's willing to come on the show. And also, I've got a guy he calls himself Dread Pirate Higgs.
Yeah.
He's a pastafarian.
Yeah, I want to talk to him.
So,
what?
Yeah,
Nice.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I love it.
So, I'm going to book that. So, perfect.
I've got a bunch of stuff happening at work where people are off because of surgeries and stuff, so I got to, plan my vacation around them as well.
And remember our friend Janice Selby?
Mm-hmm. She's going to come on.
She does a show as well now, so I think we'll bring her back. Or we might go on her show as well.
Yeah.
We might be guests on her show as well. So,
did she give you any idea of when they recorded the show?
Times, or anything?
No, not yet.
And is it just her that does it, or is she?
No, she's with somebody else.
Okay.
She co-hosted with Courtney Hurd.
Okay.
She's
nice
known as Godless Mom.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I know her.
Yeah,
She's
and
great. She's on Twitter.
They've been doing it for a few months, so
nice.
They focus on secular parenting.
Oh man, yeah, I love her.
I've been in an argument on Facebook for the last 4 days about parenting.
Okay. So anyway, I'll as soon as I will book these people, and I'll let you know when we have them on. So
yeah, and we'll figure out when we're going to be off that one Sunday. And
yeah, because we got to figure that out. Because right now, if I put these 4 people in there, we're booked till the end of August.
I have I'll figure it out. I gotta go talk to Carolyn next week, and I'll let you know.
Okay. Perfect.
If we got to do it on a Saturday, that's cool for me. I mean,
it's always possible that we could bring some gear and do a recording.
No, that's a lot of gear to bring.
No, I don't mean like this. I mean,
I can do it on StreamYard, and I'll just add you guys.
We could have a computer, we could have our phones, and we could
I think. Well, yeah, but I think it would be just easier for us to like for example, just do an interview or do the show on a Wednesday. Pre-record the show on a Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever, whatever day, and just basically air it on that Saturday.
Yeah,
that's supposed to, or that Sunday is supposed to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. We can.
We'll figure it out.
It'll be easier. Why? If we're gonna go on a vacation for a few days, why take all this gear or whatever? Then we have to do the booking, make sure we get a Wi-Fi signal, make sure everything works fine. I mean, we're already set up here.
Going there would be a Wi-Fi, but we won't argue about that. It's
no,
not worth it.
No, yeah.
I'm making an executive decision here.
That's a good point. I mean, yeah. I mean, if there's a way to pre-record and get it done where it's all the same, then
it just means we have to book an evening interview on a Tuesday and hope someone's available.
Yeah, we'll figure it
out.
That
way you really get your vacation. That way you can just always not have to think about shit.
I actually have a job now where I really truly can just turn off for a few days. It's fan-fucking-tastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is fucking awesome.
That's mostly how my job is. When you're clean and you don't have to think.
Yeah. Well, and when I'm at my old job, I'd get off work and I'd be worrying about what I had to do the next day and thinking about all the things that I didn't get done, and that just doesn't happen anymore.
That's taking work with you at home.
I could not leave work at work.
Man,
I tried very, very hard, and I would turn off, but your brain sometimes just doesn't let you. I wouldn't work at home, but your brain's still going. It never stopped.
Yeah. Oh, mine does that. Even with cleaning, I'm just did I remember to lock that gate?
Oh, God, when I first started this job, I have to, do things like that, lock things that I never had to do before. I'm like, oh, fuck. I think I forgot to lock the filing cabinet. Oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly. Just stupid shit like that. And you're like, that's going to fuck me tomorrow, dude. And then you go in and everybody's okay.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, shit, I did remember to lock it.
You're like, okay, I guess I'm good. All right.
Yeah.
All right, Brent, my friend. I guess we'll see you Wednesday, and we're starting earlier Wednesday again, or?
Yeah, maybe if we can, I don't know, because I know you guys are 3 hours off.
I get home 5 o'clock, which is 8 o'clock your time, right? So
we get home around that same time.
So if you could do 9 o'clock, that gives us time. We could just do takeout on Wednesday and not worry about cooking dinner. And We could
Or
even
we
do
could just eat on the
5:30.
show.
No.
This show is brought to you by Rex's Chinese
McDonald's.
House.
Right. Yeah.
But we
that,
could-
that actually would work if we could do that.
Yeah, like it all depends on your work too and how busy you are. I have very predictable work schedule, but
Yeah. Well, either way, we'll make it work.
yeah.
So,
So we
let us
could
know,
probably
Brent.
do like 5:30.
Okay. Yeah. If we can do that time, that'd be awesome. If
Mm-hmm.
you guys want to do, like you said, like 6 o'clock your time
Mm-hmm.
and then 9 o'clock mine, that'd be great. We can do that.
Sounds good. We'll do that.
All right. Cool, man. Well,
Let's
thanks
go.
again. That was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. That was a good one.
Yeah, it
That was
was.
a really good one, I think.
We always do good shows.
Always. But let's
Yeah,
go enjoy some
really
sun.
too.
Yeah, go enjoy some sun, buddy.
No, I'm telling you to go enjoy some sun.
Well, him too. It's
We
probably,
want
probably
to
scorching
go
where
see
he is
those
right
blue
now.
heron.
You see,
is
what was
pretty
it? What was it? 154 to 153 degrees in Death Valley at
Death
some
Valley,
point.
yeah.
Jesus.
What was it? No, was it 139?
No, it was in the 50s.
No, it was 53 degrees Celsius.
53 degrees Celsius, that's what it was. 53 degrees
So now-
Celsius, you're
so
right,
now I
yeah.
gotta calculate that.
Hey Siri, what's 53 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
53 degrees Celsius is 127.4
There we
degrees
go.
Fahrenheit.
Holy shit. That's really hot. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
It's just a good thing that climate change is a hoax.
Yep.
I'm so glad.
Exactly, right?
Jesus Christ. If we get to like 85 and the humidity just makes it like, fuck, you're just dying.
Yeah.
You just feel like you're dying.
It's in the desert though. I don't think there'd be that much humidity.
No, it's
No,
probably
yeah,
really
the
dry
desert-
there.
Really dry, but still,
Yeah.
I don't want to be there.
Yeah, because like our temperatures are like low, like people see them, but we have this feels like thing.
Yeah.
It's always way up in those numbers, like your regular, but because of the humidity, it actually drops the actual temperature.
Yeah.
Like right now we're at 88, is what I'm looking at. But it feels like 105. You know what I mean? Like it's
That's hot.
really, it's hot.
Yeah,
'cause
see,
it just engulfs
we
you.
have the same thing here on the West Coast, and also when I was in Quebec, because I remember the worst I saw, the lowest temperature I saw in Quebec was minus 62 degrees, but that was with the humidex factor, so it was like, I'm not sure it was like actually minus 62, but it felt like minus 62.
Minus 62 Celsius is going to be, like, minus 40 is the same.
No, I think it's minus 20. Ask Siri again.
Hey Siri, what's minus 62 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
It's minus 79.6
Minus 79.6 in Fahrenheit.
Yeah, so
In
minus 80.
Fahrenheit?
Yeah, minus 79 degrees
Hey
in
Siri,
Fahrenheit.
what's minus 40 Fahrenheit in Celsius?
The answer is minus 40 degrees Celsius.
Oh, you were right. Sorry, you're right.
I know.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay. Okay.
So that day, that was in 1992. Minus 73,
Yeah, minus 79 Fahrenheit.
minus 79 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
That's how cold.
We're gonna have to add him as a side character.
Siri. Siri's
Yeah,
the same.
Siri with my Australian male accent. I love it.
That is very helpful, and I can hear it, and I think we can all hear it. So yeah, that's really cool. I like that.
All right, brother. I'll let you go.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right, y'all, take it easy.
Yeah.
Talk to you
Good
soon.
Wednesday.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.